On April 9th, Friday, there was 8:30 a.m. Zoom meeting on housing problems and solutions. 1 o'clock that afternoon, I attended a Zoom for Winners Senior Center of Fixtures, Fittings, and Equipment. And then on the 13th, which was Tuesday, Bill Dodd had a fire preparedness meeting, Zoom, which I watched. On the 15th, I attended SACOG meeting in the afternoon. And then today on the 20th, I met with our city manager this morning to go over the agenda. Thank you, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi.
Thank you, Mayor. On April the 8th and the 15th, I attended the city's management staff meetings. On April the 9th, I attended the chamber board meeting. April the 12th, there was the first chamber mixer that they've had in over a year, and they held it downtown on Main Street outside, right in front of Berryessa Gap. So it was nice to see people able to get together and safely social distance and just have our first mixer in a long time. So it was a lot of new members were introduced. On April 13th, I met with the mayor, with the chamber president, Chris Calvert, and the executive director, Sue Mullen, and discussed several questions and issues that the chamber had. On the 19th of April, I met with the city manager for the agenda review. And later on the 19th, attended the meeting of the Winners Pewter Creek Park Committee, where they had a discussion on whether or not they've recently made a recommendation, which hasn't come to council yet, but to be reformed as a natural resource committee. And there was a question posed to them as whether or not they were interested in taking on duties of the Climate Action Commission for Winters. And they had a discussion, and it sounded pretty much most of the, I think all the committee members decided that that was more than they could take on at this time, and they didn't want to add that to their potentially expanding role as a natural resource committee. So that's all I have to report today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the 7th, I was on a Zoom call with Assembly Member Curry, Supervisor Saylor, Caltrans representatives, and Congressman Garamendi. And we were discussing the I-505 overpass project and how we might be able to get that funded sooner rather than later. So trying to beat some money out of the feds. On the 8th, I was also on the VCE board meeting. On the 13th, as mentioned by the Mayor Pro Tem, I participated in the meeting with Sue and Chris from the chamber. On the 14th, I attended a Zoom with Supervisor Sandy for an update on the Animal Services JPA that we both sit on. And then I also received a couple of calls in the last few days about the fireworks item that's on the agenda for tonight. So I'll save those comments till later. And then yesterday I met with the city manager for the agenda review. And then I also attended the first chamber mixer, in, like the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, in over a year. And I thought it was a real good event. A lot of new businesses in town, getting to meet other businesses, and it was served its exact purpose for sure. And hopefully they can keep having them. All right, thank you everybody for all your work on the committees and assignments. And now we are going to move on to public comment. This is the time that any member of the public can address the city council on matters which are not listed on tonight's agenda. So if there's something we need to know about or hear about, and we're not going to be discussing it tonight, now's your opportunity, and you can use the raise your hand icon or wave your hand around for Ashley to see, and she'll call upon you and we'll hear what you have to say. Ashley, do we have any takers?
see, I'm not seeing any hands up at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll go ahead and move on. The next item is a consent calendar. And these are items that typically don't call for any review by the city council. And they will be reviewed by the city manager. I would like to ask that item 3 being moved down to item 5 on discussion items. Kathleen,
Okay, so item 3 related to the contract with Ample Electric.
correct.
Okay, so that's going to discussion. We'll make that number 5.
Yes.
Okay. The remaining items on the consent calendar include the minutes from the regular meeting held on Tuesday, April 6th. The next item is the second reading of the ordinance and the adoption of ordinance 2021-01, which is amending section 16.12.010 of our municipal code, which is authorizing the dedication of streets and easements pursuant to the Subdivision Map Act. The next item is a resolution 2021-16, which is modifying the traffic closure schedule, the street closure schedule for Main Street between Railroad and the mid-block crossing. That is expanding the hours of closure. So the council's being asked to consider closing Main Street later on Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon and then reopening on Monday morning at 7:30 as soon as the public works crews are in to allow for a complete weekend. We're also asking for council authorization to provide administrative authority for me as city manager to approve additional street closures only for major holidays and those primarily that back up on a Monday or a Friday in the event that we anticipate a lot of people in town. And so for public safety reasons, allowing me to close the street, for example, on Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend. The other item is resolution 2021-17, which is celebrating May as Older Americans Month. And those are the 4 items on the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you. Council have any questions on a consent calendar?
Yes, I have a question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
City Manager Treppa, could you please clarify on the one on the downtown street closure? The duration of that, I believe it's for 6 months is what we're looking at authorizing.
Yes, thank you. So it would be a 6-month extension of the previous schedule, which would bring us through October. And then hopefully within that time, we'll have a broader conversation about the downtown outdoor gathering area.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, anybody else?
May I say something? This is not my time, but just to clarify, can we
Go
change
ahead, Eric.
that to 3 o'clock and not 3:30? Because our guys leave at 3:30. So can we change that to be a 3 o'clock close or does it matter?
I
I
think-
think we can do that. Kathleen, is that all right?
I think so, thank you. And I thought that the hours had been confirmed and they're approximate. So yes, if it facilitates public works' time, I think 3 o'clock is the appropriate time then.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
We don't
you.
need Eric getting any overtime.
No,
I would be the one out there doing it for free.
no.
So I
Okay.
was wondering if you would like to pull that from consent and make a motion to amend the resolution for that.
Okay, so pull it from consent so we can amend it.
Amend the resolution. Yes.
Okay, so that would go down to discussion item number 6 then?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, then we're gonna have on the consent calendar, items 1, 2, and 4. No, 5.
5.
Excuse me.
I would
3
move
and-
the consent calendar items 1, 2, and 4 as stated.
1, 2, and 5.
1, 2, and 5, excuse me.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi to approve the modified consent calendar. Ashley, roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Harold, you're muted.
There you go.
Councilmember Anderson, I'm doing the roll call vote for approving the agenda.
The
I mean, the
consent
consent
calendar.
calendar, excuse me, consent calendar.
Consent calendar is modified. I will-
Yes.
Yeah,
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously as amended. Okay, next we have a presentation by Valley Clean Energy updating us on their strategic planning.
Thanks, Mayor Cowan. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, welcome,
Yes.
Rebecca.
Thank you. And can everyone see my screen?
We can now. I think I can.
Yes.
All right. So thanks for the opportunity to come quickly discuss Valley Clean Energy and what we do. I'm Rebecca Boyles. I'm the Director of Customer Care and Marketing, and here we go. So I know some of you have seen our presentation a couple of times. I'll keep the background brief, but for those of you that may not know, Valley Clean Energy, or VCE, we're a community choice program, community choice aggregation program, created for the local communities to band together and purchase electric generation for the communities that are members. We're not for profit, we're locally controlled, and we provide competition in the market that should benefit our customers. Most importantly, we're the same price as PG&E on the overall bill, but we have more renewables in our standard service. And our mission is to provide clean electricity, product choice, and GHG emissions reductions with local control at competitive prices. And so a little bit of background on how community choice aggregation came to be. Back in 2002, AB 117 was passed, and that was the legislation that formed the community choice aggregation. So the way that it works is kind of the bottom icons are the easiest for me to understand anyway. You know, we take care of the generation of the source of the electricity. PG&E still delivers it, maintains the poles and wires, and sends the bill to the customer. So from the customer side, not too much changes. There's just more renewables in the standard mix. And it's been a pretty popular movement around California. The first CCA began providing service in 2010. In 2021, there's 24 of us. 12 of those are in PG&E territory. The others are in Southern California Edison and San Diego Gas and Electric. And we serve over 11 million customers, all the agencies combined. Many communities that aren't currently served are considering being served or talking to existing agencies to maybe join. And we're the California Community Power, JPA, is a mechanism that's recently been set up for different CCAs to join and use economies of scale to procure electricity. So, because some of us are pretty small, so it helps for us to band together and things like that. And a little bit about our demographics. So we, and just our agency itself. We launched in 2018 with Yolo County, the cities of Woodland and Davis, and then Winters just joined and was enrolled this past January. And actually the solar customers, net energy metering customers, will be enrolled every month on their true update to make sure that they don't miss out on any credits they may have accrued from their excess generation. We have about 61.5 customer accounts. That's really more like 125,000 people, maybe a little bit more than that, and 750 gigawatt hours of annual load. And so some of our demographics are here. Obviously, big agricultural load, a lot of solar in our territory, and participation rate of 91%. So that means 9% have opted out to remain with PG&E for electric generation and transmission delivery. So Yolo, Woodland, Davis all have about a third of the load, and then Winters is about 5% of our load. Something that's pretty great, I think, about us is that we're the only Central Valley-based CCA program. There are other communities in the Central Valley that are exploring, various levels, either joining a CCA or starting their own. So we try to help out when we can. We're in active conversations with some of those communities. And then the bottom bullet really is getting to our financial stability. That's the most important thing, is that we stay solvent. So to that, we're only 2 years in terms of, well, 3 years in now in June. Excuse me, but we've already paid up paid off our startup loans. And then also we work with Sacramento Municipal Utilities District, or SMUD, for a lot of our billing, our back office services, et cetera. And they deferred some payment. They deferred some fees for us, and we've paid those off all on time. And so we invest in our communities. We're providing competition where there was no competition before, more renewables for the same price as PG&E, local control. So we really want to engage folks in their energy decisions whenever we can. Our meetings are open to the public. We hope people will come weigh in on their energy choices. Something I'm really excited about is local investment. So with some of our recent contract negotiations, we've put stipulations in there that there will be money set aside for workforce development and local sustainability projects. And those will all be run by our board. They'll have the final say in where those monies are being allocated. And local projects. So we have a couple of local projects around. And then some of you are probably familiar with the SACOG grant. We're working with Woodland, Winters, Davis, and Yolo County on putting new EV chargers in. So that's exciting. I think Winters is actually the furthest along on that. So you should pat yourselves on the back for that. Local programs. So we're doing what we can to, figure out what the community wants and needs in terms of electricity programs, customer programs. And we're just about to roll out our 3-year programs plan that should be coming out in the next few months. And then finally, so we tried to be cheaper than PG&E, but there was some, unfortunate reasons why we couldn't be. Initially, we did have a rate discount, which resulted in about $500,000 in customer savings. If the stars align and we get a little bit of a better regulatory environment for things like the excess fees added to our customer bills, we will pass those discounts on to our customers. We do have a dividend program, so when we hit certain financial targets, we'll give back to customers as we can. And let's see, advocacy for local businesses. So often we have businesses that may be, in various levels of interconnection with PG&E. They may ask us to help out with that process, although we're not involved on that side of the business. We can often help to escalate customer needs when we're dealing with PG&E with some success. And then also, very importantly, working with cities and county in energy sector related GHG goals, climate action planning. So onto the strategic plan. This is the cover. We're working on a piece that's sort of a short graphic distillation of the actual strategic plan. So once that's finished, we'll send that your way. While I'm not discouraging reading our entire strategic plan, I think this will be an easier way to digest it and digest some of the goals that we're working on. And so it was a 9-month process. The board reviewed it, our community advisory committee reviewed it, was unanimously adopted in November of 2020. And so the main goal areas: financial strength, obviously very important; procurement and power supply, that's our bottom line; customers and community, that's the piece I've been most actively involved in. So everything from marketing and customer programs, community reinvestment, that kind of thing; decarbonization and grid innovation. One of the things about being a small, nimble organization is that we have the drive to innovate. So, it's not always the easiest thing innovating in the electricity world, but we do our best. We do have to stay abreast of regulatory and legislative affairs. They do highly affect us, so we're actively engaged in a lot of those activities. As Councilmember Lauren mentioned, she's also involved in some of those. And then organization, workplace, and technology. That's basically just making sure that we can do more with less. We're a 6-person staff, so what types of process or software can we integrate into our organization, make us run a little bit more smoothly if we can. So some of the highlights there in the decarbonization roadmap, we're trying to get to 100% net neutral carbon by 2030 or 100% carbon free hour by hour. So we're developing roadmaps for that, resilience and reliability, which obviously huge issue since the summer heat storms and lots of folks without power. So we're looking into how we can help with that. And then we're trying to get more folks involved and aware of the energy sector and how they can actually weigh in, and more focused engagement with historically and emergent It's a mouthful. Historically and emerging disadvantaged communities. Very important, obviously. So how can we do our part in that area? And we did pass an environmental justice statement late last year. And how can we move that from the statement to action? So we're working on that piece of it now. And then an investment grade credit rating. A couple of CCAs have been successful in doing that. It's no small feat for a small agency like ours, but it's a worthwhile goal. So we're working toward that. And in terms of just our key activities lately, Winters just enrolled in January mainly. And like I said, ongoing enrollment of solar customers. So, we're still fielding calls from customers who are curious about how it works or what the billing looks like, that kind of thing. So that'll probably keep continuing for some time. Working on renewables, especially with storage for grid reliability. It's a big deal. Our local programs plan, our 3-year plan, should be hopefully approved by our board in the next few months. So that will be fun. And decarbonization and grid innovations, as I mentioned earlier, that 2030 roadmap, we're taking a lot of inspiration from organizations like SMUD, who has some pretty inspirational climate goals. And then legislation. So I think Councilmember Lauren mentioned this earlier, but SB 612, the power charge indifference adjustment. I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but the basic gist of it is that it's about ratepayer equity. So our customers, our generation rates are quite a bit lower than PG&E's are. However, there's the PCIA, the power charge indifference adjustment, which is basically a charge for, it's above market costs, legacy costs for PG&E, where they entered into certain contracts before customers moved over to Valley Clean Energy. So that's understandable and obviously a good business argument for it. However, there's been some lack of clarity on how that charge is calculated, and we want that we want our CCA customers, and that's not just Valley Clean Energy, but all across the state, any member of a jurisdiction like ours, to have the same benefits. So that's what that one's about, is that we're looking for ratepayer equity there. It's understandable if we need to pay those charges, but our customers need to be reaping the same benefits in terms of renewables allocation, that kind of thing. And then AB 843, the Aguiar-Curry, that's to make way to have PPAs, power purchase agreements, with biomass. So where that would really come in handy in our service territory is places like Walnut Hulls, electricity, waste to electricity, that kind of thing. And then just really keeping our eye on a lot of the regulatory proceedings. Resource adequacy is an issue that's very important for all load serving entities like BCE, like PG&E. A lot of expense associated with that. The reliability of the grid, obviously we're very interested in helping that in any way we can. And then PG&E is doing a little bit of reorg after their bankruptcy, and they have a regionalization plan that we're helping away in on that. And that's about it. I'm available for questions if anyone has any.
Okay, thank you very much, Rebecca. Is there any questions from council for Rebecca? Jesse, there you go.
Yeah, I was muted. I was trying to be a respectful audience. I think your presentation is very exciting. I'm hoping in my other hat, besides Valley Clean Energy and City of Winters, that in the future, Yolo County Transportation District can have redundancies in how it saves energy so that it's prepared for power outages and can still run its electric buses and still run the equipment to fuel its condensed gas stations. So we have all kinds of things to do in Yolo County, and I look forward to the nexus of those needs.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. I hope we have more conversations about that going forward.
Yeah.
Anybody else on council have questions or comments? If not, we'll open it up for any public comment. Ashley, do we have anybody from the public that would like to comment on this item?
I see 2 hands up. The first one would be Taylor.
Okay, Taylor, welcome.
Thank you, council, and thank you, Rebecca, for the presentation. I was wondering if you could tell us what the uptake is for Winters participants. Are they, how many what's the utilization rate of those eligible to be able to be on VCE? How many of them are taking advantage of that right now? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Taylor. We're about on average a little under that at the 9%, between 9 and 10% customers who have opted out versus the participation. So we're about on the average across our service territory.
So 91% participation, correct?
About that, yes.
All right. I think we also see Richard Casavecchia's hand up. Richard?
Hi. You mentioned you're looking at grid innovations. What kind of innovations are you looking at?
Sure. Well, I mean, a lot of demand response. So we do have, we submitted some comments in the reliability proceeding recently to hopefully work with, it's an entity called Polaris. And they've done a few things. They've gotten a CEC grant, but their basic thing that they really want to work on is ag demand response. So working with agricultural entities to shift load whenever they can, to electrify if they can. That's another piece that we're looking at. So those are not active yet, but that's the main one that we're looking at. There are other things too associated with procurement that my colleagues in procurement would be more better suited to answer, but that's the main one I've been involved in.
So it's mostly on educating the customers on when and how they're going to be driving their utilization, I suppose.
That's some of it. Yeah. The education, an important piece is when we know that there's going to be a lot of, either a hot day with a lot of projected load, we can let them know, hey, can you curtail, your usage, or can you move your usage, shift it? That's a piece of it. But there are also other pieces like technology innovations, that kind of thing that can help them be more efficient in how they use it or shift around their, water obviously is a huge piece of the ag load. So how they can deal with that piece of it as well.
Are there any plans to move into the transmission and distribution side of delivering power? I know you tried to buy the lines from PG&E and they said no, but I mean, what about installing your own or reapproaching them?
Yeah, I mean, so you are aware of the bid that we made for the transmission delivery. So we did that a few years ago. That did not work out. I think it's not a closed case. I know our board is still very interested in pursuing that. So that there is, a bit in our strategic plan about looking into that again. I don't know that we could, I don't know that it makes sense for us to tear it down and can reconstruct it. But, I know the board is very interested and we will be looking into that.
And I saw this slide, there's a 9.5 megawatt battery project. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yes, let me pull it up again. And of course I closed it down. Let me see here. I want to make sure I'm not telling you the wrong thing when I quote it. Yes, so I think, yeah, that's a combination of our two different, because we recently had two contracts last fall. So I believe that's a combined figure for the, let's see, Gibson or Renesolar. And there's another, I'm not remembering. Mayor Cowan, maybe you recall the other contract. Not to put you on the spot there. Sorry, Richard, Lauren, I don't have that figure right on me. Director Lauren?
I think it might be called is it a Pewter Creek project?
Yes, yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a combined figure of those two projects.
So how does that work as far as, is it you're paying for storage of power you've already purchased, or how does that work for your business model?
Sure, yeah. Well, so I'm not a procurement expert. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. But I believe what happens is that the batteries are installed in the same installation as the solar panel so that they can, store the energy and then bring it back to the grid when it's needed.
Okay. I know battery, bulk battery can get expensive. Do you know what the cost per kilowatt hour is for the battery storage versus, I know the solar power itself is pennies, but
yeah, certainly that's been a big barrier with storage, is that it tends to be more expensive, although the costs are dropping. I don't have that kilowatt hour cent figure, but if you follow up, I'm happy to get that for you.
Sure.
Let me see here. I can give you the. Yeah, we have a
Richard,
couple of,
Richard, you should start attending the VCE board meetings.
My 3-year-old yells at me when I'm surprised he's not in here right now, jumping on my lap, trying to pound buttons on the keyboard.
I had to kick my 5-year-old out of her own room, so I totally understand. So if you just email info@valleycleanenergy.org, I'm happy to get you that figure.
Okay. I have a couple other questions that weren't on your slides. Is it better to email you or maybe ask you now and see if you've got the answer?
Either way, I'm going to defer to Mayor Cowan on that. I'm not sure how everyone's doing on time.
I think we better start to move on, and yeah, we're getting into the weeds a little bit. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak to this item, Ashley?
I am not seeing any other hands up at this time.
All right, thank you for the questions though, Richard. They were all great questions and a lot of added information there. So yeah, if you can attend some of these board meetings and you'll learn a lot more about it for sure. Okay, the next item we have is, thank you again, Rebecca, for coming and filling us in. Appreciate it. All right, our first discussion item is resolution 2021-18 for fiscal year 21-22 road rehabilitation project list. I think this might be the city manager and our public works director, Eric.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This will be Eric Lucero's presentation.
All right, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I've never done this before, so I'll see if I mess it up. Can you see what I see?
I think so.
Just
You got it.
plain piece of white thing there. So this evening, staff is asking council to approve resolution 2021-18 for the SV1 street rehab project for the 21-22 street rehab project. And as you know, each year in May, staff comes up with the project, the scope of work, and then we need to pass a resolution for that project. Once we do get the approval, we submit that project onto the California Transportation Commission website, which allows us to qualify for the funding that's been allocated for the city of Winters in the next fiscal year. So that's really why we're here tonight, is for pass that resolution. But since we're here, I figured I would give you a kind of a rundown of where we are with the SB1 2021 street rehab project. And then just to make things longer, a little slideshow of for the 1920 street rehab project. So how do I make this go now? There we go. Okay, so this, just real quick, is what we brought to council when the SB1 first started in 2017. We came out with a 3-year project. And as you know, each year we put a project together, but because of cost and what we do as far as the depth of construction will change how much that project costs, and that changes how much we do. So what we've always told council is, if we've put the streets on the list before and didn't get to them, they were going to be on the next year's list. So we're still catching up on this list here, that we did back in 2017. And I think that list right there, after the 2021 project, well, actually things got pushed off. So by next year, all that'll be done, and then we'll move forward. So this is just a real kind of a short piece of the list that we get from the consultants that come out and give us our paving index of how good our streets are, how bad they are, what condition they're in. And so I just wanted to kind of show you, these are the first, I think, 18 or the worst 18 on the list. And reason why I brought this up is just to show you all but Quail Court have been on the list, have gotten to in the past, or will be on this year's project. And so, and then Quail Court is only really left out because it's out there by itself, and to have a crew go out and just do one court would be costly. So we try to kind of catch things in groups of, when you're in one neighborhood, you get as much as you can in that neighborhood. So this is the 2021-22 project list that we need the resolution passed on for this year. As you can see, it's more of slurry, and then we just got the one street there on Main that needs to grind and pave. I can tell you with the 2021, we already had to kind of pull out just because of budgetary reasons, and some of the locations that need the work done, there's other work being done, like say Blue Mountain Terrace on East Baker. We don't really want to go in and put a brand new road while construction is going to finish on the Blue Mountain Terrace and then start on the senior center. So we kind of move things around for different reasons. And this one here, we got the grind and pave on Main Street, and that's really doing the same thing we did on East Main Street back in 2017, 2018 is just to grind and pave on the travel lanes themselves. So basically from the fog line to the center line, or fog line to fog line on each side. So that's kind of what that project there is showing. But by the time we get to next year, we'll know how much money we have, because this is just basically showing what we have projected for the SB1 funding. But as you'll see on a few more slides, there's other funding that contributes more money to the project than just this. And this is just kind of a faded out overview of where this work is set to be done. The blue is the slurry sill in those locations, and then the red is just that short street there on a main street. So this is going to the 2021, just to kind of give you an overview of what we're getting ready to go out to bid on, where the money comes from. This is the operating budget for 2021 for Public Works. As you can see, 113,650 is allocated to streets. Now out of that, 45,000 is what we actually use out of that 113 that's dedicated to the street rehab project from the gas tax funds. The SB1 funding, and this was 132,000, and then the rest of it, the bulk of it comes from the TDA funds, which is 290,000. And every year, each one of these change if Shelley has to allocate TDA funds for, say, the overpassing at 505. If they want to use money towards that, it kind of shortens what we have for this project here. But this is kind of the budget we're working on, the 467,000. And so we came up, here's the project that we're getting ready to go out to bid for the 2021. It's about the same. If you look at the grind and pave square footage, you look at the square footage for the slurry, it's pretty much the same as last year. We get a pretty good bang for our buck if we, try to figure things out. And this one here, Vintage Paving did this as far as a grind and pave, and it all worked out. And so you'll see on the next 1920 project of what we actually got done. And so this is what we have projected. This is kind of the overview. The red, most of them are coming off of Grant Avenue. You got Railroad, and then East Street, and then Morgan Street that are in bad shape. And then a lot of, we ended up moving, we had East Main Street, which is really bad, but there's a possibility of some development going out on East Main, between the McClish property and East Main. So with that kind of being in limbo, I didn't want to put a brand new road in there and then have them tear it up and then have to redo it. So we'll push that off till next year or whenever they're done. And so we moved that down to Russell Street there, the first 2 blocks. And Russell, the whole street could actually use it. But for now, especially with the, closing off Main, running more traffic down Russell Street will definitely help with, more traffic going that way. So that's kind of where we are with the 2021 project. And so just to make this whole thing a little bit longer, this is the 1920 project that we did last year. And like I say, the square footage, a little bit more, had a little bit more money. So this is the overview of what we did. You got a lot of slurry seal in different areas, and some long runs that we did, and then some grind and pave in certain situations, and ones that really needed it. And so the next show is basically just want to go real quick and show the council kind of where our money's been spent, before and after pictures. This is Betty Court before, and this is the grind and pave, kind of what it looks like. They just take off the top 2 inches. As long as that base is good, then we're able to do this. And then that's the, brand new road after. We also did Betty Court, Priscilla Court. And this one I kind of wanted to bring up. You could see at one point in the previous year, we did a crack seal, and then we were going to slurry this because we didn't have the funding. And then Shelley, the finance director, actually came in and said, hey, we do have more TDA funding. So we just changed the job. But one reason I want to show council, what we're finding is when we do a slurry seal over the crack seal, that crack seal, number one, you see more cracks that you don't get than the ones you do get. And then number two, that crack seal comes up through the slurry. So when it starts to kind of wear down, you see that through there. So it's not really getting the benefit of what you think you're getting. So we're contemplating on whether we want to just do the crack seal or not and just do the slurry seal, because like I say, you'll see more cracks in there that you don't get than the ones that you actually do. Unless it's a really bad area, then it's kind of more of a spot repair, and we do a lot of that. So this is what it looks like after. And then carry on court on one side, or carry on circle, excuse me, just what the street was before and during, and then this is what it looks like after. This is the other side. Biggest problem here for us was cutting those oleanders back, but when we got done, got a brand new road, and that was one of the worst roads that we had in town. This is Valley Oak Drive. It failed a little bit differently. As you remember, it peeled halfway through, like there was a bad lift on the top end, but the water coming off of that island has kind of deteriorated it. So same thing, went through grind and pave. Now there's a brand new road there. This is Westwood Court, and kind of before and after. And I know all the people there have been waiting a long time. Same as Riverview Court coming off of Russell Street as well. And before and after. This is Hemingway. Don't know why I couldn't find a before picture, so I stole it off of Google. So now all of a sudden you got not just a brand new road, but you have brand new homes right next to it. So happened real fast, but that one there was in need of grind and pave. And this is just the other side of Hemingway where it ties into Anderson Street. And then on the slurry, we'd had those long runs. So this is one of them that's Anderson. This is right by the junior high school. This is kind of looking eastbound, and then this is looking westbound on the same street. The other long run we had was Baker, and this is just a cross section there. So they took care of the crosswalk striping as well when they put it all back. And then Main Street, we went from 2nd Street all the way to Grant. So we go by the city park. This is just looking back from the park up to downtown area. And this is right by Abbey Street and Main, and then backing up towards the church, the Catholic church at Colby or Cody Lane, the slurry seal that was done there. And then when you see this is the end of the project. They're striping, and that's kind of the finished product. And so all in all, I think we got a pretty good project out of the funding we had. And that's pretty much it. So back to the reason why we're here is for this resolution to be approved so we can move forward with the 2021-22 street rehab project on the next fiscal year. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Is there any questions from council for Eric? No? Okay, seeing Councilmember New. You're muted. You're muted.
Can I just answer them?
You're muted. There you go.
Thank you. I would move this resolution. I want to know if there was supposed to be public comment before we did anything.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll ask for any public comment at this time. Ashley, do we have any?
We have Kate Laddish.
Okay. Kate, welcome.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Cowan, and Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And thank you to Eric for the presentation. I have a quick question. I heard Morgan Street and my antenna went, ooh, exciting. But I didn't see it on the list. Did I just miss it, or did I not understand the context with it?
It is on the list to
Okay.
be, Morgan Street will be a brand new street from Grant Avenue to East Main Street.
That is fantastic news. Thank
Yeah,
you
that's a
so
bad.
much. And that actually ties in with the next question was, I think it was last year with some of the road resurfacing that you did with the SB1 funds, you were able to do some restriping in ways that really promoted non-automotive transportation. I mean, such as making sure there was a little bit more room for bicycles or something that would facilitate pedestrian use. If I remember right, Morgan Street is the widest street in town of the residential streets, and people do have a way of just kind of taking that turn and traveling expeditiously. I was wondering about the possibility of part of this if there's a way to add in bike lanes on Morgan Street, both to make it so that it's safer for bicyclists. There are a lot of kids who live along here, as well as people who use adaptive equipment sometimes in the street, as well as just making the street appear narrower and perhaps using that as a way to calm traffic.
No, that's a great idea, and it would tie in because East Main actually does have a bike lane there, just not as much. But you're right, that road is extremely wide, and I at one point was, because of budgetary reasons, was thinking of narrowing what we do repair and leave the parking not done and just kind of slurry it. But we're going to redo the whole thing just because it's that bad and it's that rough. But we'll definitely consider whether we can do both sides or not. But we will be able to choke it down, and with just striping, and then we can add the bike lane on one side and maybe even both sides, depending on how wide it is.
Oh, that'd be great. I think there's a planting strip on the east side, but not the west side. And so there's definitely, I'm very excited about this. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Taylor Bewley, I saw your hand up next. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I'll identify myself too. 210 Almond. Thank you. Thank you, Chamber, and thank you for the presentation, Eric. What is the deal with striping? Those great questions about bike lanes, I love those. But what about just stripes on some of the streets we did over the last year? What's the plan for that?
Are we just talking about in neighborhoods or?
Yeah, I think I remember the chamber meeting where like you bidded it differently because you were concerned that we weren't going to get any bids at all. Is there a plan to go back to neighborhoods and stripe like a center divider line on the neighborhoods that were done with the slurry this year?
Typically in neighborhoods, there's not a lot of striping, and I would have to double check with engineering to see what constitutes it and what doesn't, because I don't want to go and do something that I'm not supposed to do. But I'll definitely double check and see what we can do, because I know there's places where they tell you not to put a stop bar. If there's a crosswalk, now they're saying don't put a stop bar there. And there's other times they want them. So I'll double check and make sure we're doing what we need to do. But typically in neighborhoods, unless say like on Morgan Street, it's really wide, it would just be a open road with the stop legends and the stop bars.
My concern would be, and I know it's not been done, but Walnut, there's with the Mariani parking on the side-by-side, there's not a clear path forward, and with the possibility of increased trucking through that region for various projects that might be underway. Right. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, I will. And in Walnut Lane, the scary thing with that, I think if I put a center line, it would probably choke it down to like a 9-foot lane because it's really narrow with parking on both sides. But yeah, we'll look at it, and if that helps, then we'll definitely take care of it.
Okay, thank you, Taylor. Corinne Martinez, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. Yeah, Corinne Martinez, 115 Baker. Eric, can you just reiterate or repeat what you said the plan was for the section of Main Street between Railroad and First, given that that's where, at least on half that block, we have some barriers and some structures up currently?
Yeah, so whether the pergolas stay up, come down, get moved, I know right now it's under a temporary thing and we haven't decided what we're going to do. Either way, all the way, whether it's on where the pergolas are or on the west side where there is parking, the grind and pave is only going to be in the travel lanes. So just like we did on East Main Street, we just went basically fog line to fog line, and we'll cut that out. And because the parking on those sides, the streets aren't that bad. So to put, another $25,000 into repaving the parking area, that's not that bad, just doesn't seem real prudent. So that's what we plan on doing is just taking the travel lane from First Street to Railroad on both sides, east and west, and none of the parking sides. So if the pergola stayed there, it wouldn't matter because we would be about, a foot and a half away from it. So that's the plan for that.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, Ashley, do we have any other hands raised for this item?
We do not.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on with a motion in a second, and I believe Councilmember News already made the motion.
Do you want me to repeat the motion?
Sure.
Okay. Move that the council adopt resolution 2021-18, adopting a list of projects for fiscal year 21-22 funded by SB1.
Okay.
Lauren will second the motion.
Okay, we have the motion by Councilmember New and a second by Councilmember Lauren. And Ashley, please do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to discussion item number 2, an update on the annual fireworks show and booth sales. And I believe this will be handled by the city manager, Kathleen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This item is sort of a twofold item. One is to confirm what our plans will be for potentially the fireworks show for this July 3rd/4th. And then secondarily, it's just an update on some of the work that the fire department is doing with regard to updating the fire code so that the council and the community is aware. And then potentially as part of that, the language related to firework booths. So with regard to the fireworks show, I wanted to bring this item before the council and the community just to let everybody know where we are at. We have received a proposal from the city's fireworks vendor. It's attached to the staff report. The cost is the same as it has been in previous years, $13,000. And what's allowing the vendor to offer the show at the same price is that they've reduced the size of the shell. So there are no 6-inch shells. And so it's now a combination of 4-inch and smaller. So the cost is still $13,000. We do have in the city's fireworks fund approximately $10,000. I think it's $10,225 in the fireworks account. So we're short just under $3,000. But we wanted to have this conversation tonight because according to the current COVID regulations, and we are in the orange tier, we had hoped we would be in the yellow tier by this week. Large-scale public events are not allowed under the COVID regulations. And so currently under the orange tier, public events of 50 people is the limit. If we are able to move into the yellow tier, which is the next tier down, events of 100 people are allowed. The governor has indicated that we will be reopening, the state will reopen as of June 15th. But at this point, we don't really know what the regulations will be related to large scale public events. And there have been some statements indicating that the potential exists for some regulations associated with COVID testing, vaccine verification. For sure, the mask mandate will still be in play. And so our concern is that we just don't know what the regulations will be come July 3rd in order to know whether or not we could proceed with the fireworks show. The proposal includes a 50% deposit that we would pay upon contract execution. Should we not have the fireworks show, they would retain 35% of the contract amount. That would be non-refundable. We could choose to wait a little bit longer to see where we are with the COVID regulations and our reopening plan. But there's the possibility that July 3rd would not be available to us. And I think in recent years, the city has had the show on July 3rd as a cost saving measure. So the first part of the agenda is really to take input and confirm direction related to whether or not we have a fireworks show. Part of that conversation also relates to concerns about potential fire risk. The fire show itself can only be conducted in a safe location. In the past, that's been the high school. The high school has indicated that they will be following, or the school district has indicated that they will be following all of the COVID requirements. So they can't confirm whether or not the show would be allowed or not allowed. They're waiting for whatever the requirements are at the time of the show. They did provide a facility use application that is attached to the staff report as well. And when you go through that application, you'll see that there are some requirements associated with health screenings, registering, having a list of people who will be attending the event. And admittedly, their application was prepared early in the pandemic, but that is the application that they provided when we were talking about whether or not the high school might be able to host the fireworks show. So there's the concern about, the optics of fire and fire risk and the risk of wildfire, given recent history with wildfires in the Northern California area. So that brings us a little bit to the second part of the question, or the second part of the staff report, which is really just an update to let the council and the community know that the fire department has been working on amending the municipal code to bring our fire code into compliance with current state regulations. And as part of that effort, they've been reviewing the sections related to fireworks booths. And so there's been some conversation at the staff level regarding potential changes to our language in the municipal code associated with the individual booth sales. And so some of the recommended changes will be required in order to bring them into alignment with state requirements, and some of them are optional related to how many permits the city would issue for annual sales, whether or not there's any interest in creating a lottery system that would allow permits to be issued on a sort of a rotating basis to benefit a variety of different nonprofits in town. Historically, the firework booths have been dedicated to support the winter swim team and the Little League. Staff isn't necessarily recommending any changes at this time. We just wanted to make the city council and the community aware that we were working on this and that we will be bringing this back in the future for consideration. But it would seem to be an opportune time to be able to at least put it out there and to see if there was a sense of it, if there was any input on the part of the community and the city council with regard to any of these regulations. So as we move forward, we make sure we're targeting an outcome that is in alignment with the community and the council's desires. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And we do have Chief Lopez here. Chief Miller is also on the call. Public Works, Eric is obviously here. So we're here together to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. All right, first, any questions from council or comments? Councilmember Lauren.
I had a question that I think that you covered in a general sense, and I'm not sure if there's a specific answer, but you said that that we would, if we were going to try to secure the July 3rd date, that we would have to put down a 50% deposit, and that they would retain 35% if we weren't able to have that show. But I was just wondering, is there a drop dead date of how late we could make that decision? Obviously, we could lose that opportunity if they're not available, but is there a drop dead date on making the decision?
Correct. Thank you for asking. Yes, it's 30 days. They've indicated they need 30 days advance notice in order to order the material.
Thank
30
you very
days
much.
prior to the 4th of July?
Correct.
Okay.
So beginning of June.
Related to the same topic there of deposits and such, one thing I wanted to ask about, the first year we didn't do the fireworks, which I think was 17 or 18. It's been like 3 years we haven't done them. I remember very distinctly that the previous city manager, John Dunleavy, when we made the last minute decision to cancel that the deposit we had given was going to be rolled over to the next time we did the fireworks. And there was some discussion that that December of using the deposit money towards a smaller fireworks show for the tractor as part of the Christmas celebration, the tractor parade. But it was a little late in planning, so that decision was halted and we didn't do it. So it's my understanding we have a standing deposit with the fireworks company that they had promised to roll over for us. So I'd like to know what the status of that is. And if that's not part of this 10,225 we have in the bank, we're closing the gap real darn fast, because if I remember correctly, that deposit amount from, I think it was 2017, was $5,000 is the figure I remember. So I'd like to know if anybody from staff, Shelley or Kathleen, if you can shed light on that.
I think Shelley can. I see she's ready.
Good evening, council. So yes, the $10,225 does include the deposit from the fireworks salespeople. They recently refunded that back to us because they were concerned about whether we would be moving forward or not. So they did send us the full $5,000 back.
Okay, so that's part of the 10,225.
Exactly.
It's been built up over the last couple of years. Okay, thank you. Anybody else on council have questions for staff regarding the fireworks?
I think comments, but I can wait until after if you want to take public comment first.
Okay, we can do that. All right, we're going to take public comment, and I see a few hands up. I think the first one I saw come up was Sally Brown.
There, thanks, Mayor Cowan. I'm Sally Brown, and I live at 24 East Main Street. And I actually want to speak about the second part of the agenda, which is the fireworks booths for the sale of personal use fireworks. I am totally against having fireworks booths. I know that it's a very profitable fundraiser for the swim team and for Little League. In fact, I was surprised when I saw exactly how much money they make on an annual basis for those booths. But having public use fireworks is just crazy in a community like ours that has had fires year after year. There is just far too much danger for fire as a result of them. And I think that we should follow the lead of our neighboring counties. Fireworks, private use fireworks are completely banned in all of Napa County. They are essentially banned everywhere in Sonoma County, save for a couple of communities. They're illegal in our neighboring cities. They're illegal in Davis. They're illegal in Vacaville. They're illegal in Fairfield. And I just see absolutely no point. I am in support of the public fireworks display, whether we have it this year or not. I donate to it every year. My dog would disagree because we always have to leave town and go to Tuolumne County where we have a cabin because they're illegal. All fireworks, including public displays, are illegal there. So I do know there's people in town that are against the public display because of dogs and children, et cetera. But really, my biggest issue is with the private sales in the booths. And I would like council to consider not having 0 permits for public sale fireworks. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I clarify something? And I
Yes,
neglected
please
to
do.
share something. So somebody flagged the value that was in the staff report for revenue. And I need to clarify that that is an inadvertent, that's gross revenue, not net. So, and my apologies for that confusion. So the net revenue, when we factor in the expenses for the booth, is about 25 to 30% of the actual overall revenue. So to the point, I was surprised by the amount, and that was just an oversight. I was given gross and not net. So the actual net sales is much lower.
Yes, thank you for that. And that's something that was shared with me by John Rodriguez, who's part of the leadership team for Little League, that it actually nets out to about 20 to 25%. of that gross, and that 58,000 was the gross, not the net. So
Correct. Shelley was able to
thank you
confirm today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's a couple of more hands. Corinne Martinez, I see your hand up again. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Cowan. So a couple of points, I guess. So first of all, I'll say, so thanks for the report, Kathleen. And the fireworks show is a great tradition in winters. We haven't been able to have it for the last few years. I'm fully in support of having it. There was a mention in the report that one of the reasons we switched to doing it to the 3rd from the 4th is because it was cheaper to get the company to come do that. I wonder if that's the case on this particular year, given that those dates both fall on a weekend, and in fact the 4th is on a Sunday, and might it not be cheaper for you to do it on a Sunday than a Saturday, given that the 4th is the actual holiday? So I just want to ask that question because it's the 4th celebration that people look forward to, I think. So that was one. And then the second question was around, there was comments about, uncertainty around the gathering rules by that time, where we'll be with the state, et cetera. Would it be possible, or is there a consideration, could there be consideration given to holding the public fireworks display, but not having anybody gather on the grounds? Most people in this town can see them from their backyard. And if they can't, there are, parking lots that they can go park in that are relatively close. So I just wanted to ask that question as well, is, would we consider hosting it and holding it without actually trying to let people into the grounds for concern around the gathering requirements? So I wanted to ask those couple of questions. And then my final comment will be around the private booths. I think they're, obviously they're important fundraisers for some local nonprofits. And while Sally's points are, very well made, I'm always in favor of supporting our local nonprofits and helping them raise money. And if this is a particular one that helps keep the pool open and helps our Little League, I would hate to see those opportunities go away. So thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Okay, Jack Vickery.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for the presentation. Many of my comments actually echo Corinne's, so I'll try to keep it brief. In regards to the show, I had the same thought of possibly still holding the event without letting people in, because that would just be a mayhem, especially in a year like this. I did also want to point out, I don't think it was included in the report in the reopening plan, but at this point, they are planning to lift all those restrictions in June, which would allow some gathering by the 4th of July. And I think that the economic impact that an event like that has on a town like ours is significant enough that that should also be considered in what it does for our downtown. So I would be in support of holding that, and I think it's great to check on the Sunday and see if that might be cheaper. I do know that the Monday will be a bank holiday for what it's worth, for people maybe having that day off and treating it like a Saturday. In regards to the Little League and the swim team booths, fully in support of continuing those operations. Those are major fundraisers for those two organizations, and the good that money does for our town, I think also needs to be considered. The uniforms it provides, the cheap entry fee for all the kids that are coming in to play Little League, the uniforms it provides. I think that's a huge part of youth development. And if the fireworks are a way that we can support that, I think it's great. I think the success rate, especially in winters, of using personal, safe and sane fireworks, we have a pretty darn good record. But I'll let Chief Lopez speak to our fire safety. So thank you very much and appreciate the report.
Thank you.
Kathleen, we had an exceptional show and I hope you get to see it in your first year.
Okay. All right. Richard Casavecchia.
Thank you. I just want to echo Corinne as well. I'm definitely in support if we can have the show without having people going into the high school. I don't know if even if we could, spring for larger shells, went a little higher, maybe a little easier to see from people's houses, so they're not trying to all gather right outside the high school. Maybe that's something we can consider. Also, my wife's involved in planning the prom, and right now the restrictions that the school is seeing are gatherings of 300 people with negative COVID tests and or proof of vaccination. So just little tidbit there for what things might look like in, what's that, 2-3 months now.
Okay, thank you. Taylor Bewley. You're muted.
And I'm muted. Great. So I got creepy lighting because I'm just getting through bedtime. I'm here to say two things, please. One is that if you guys are going to consider the fundraising model changes, do it in next fiscal year, because I imagine that their budget's already set and based on the suppositions that some of this is underway. Secondary, I don't want to be the guy who busts chops, but while we have a great record with Safe and Sane fireworks, we have I think, pretty atrocious record with all of the other fireworks. And so I really value the role of the fundraising booths, but there's a lot of other fireworks in town that are giving those guys a bad rep. And I would love to see increased awareness campaigns in addition to patrolling and punishment. I think we should be handing out maximum fine for these guys if we catch people with illegal fireworks. There's a reason that Safe and Sane are called Safe and Sane, and everything that is not safe nor sane. And I would encourage both the allowance of Safe and Sane and the absolute punishment of everything that falls outside of the scope of what we deem to be safe. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ashley, do we have any more comments? I think we had a written comment.
We did. Let me go ahead and pull that up really quick. Okay, so this written comment was submitted by email. This is a summary of the comment provided. The complete comment will be posted on the city's website, which is www.cityofwinners.org. The link for this comment will be posted with the agenda and packet under today's date for the meeting. And we had Patty Cox, a resident of the City of Winners, submitted a written comment regarding the firework booths. Patty stated that the firework booths are the only fundraising event that the swim team hosts. This fundraising allows the swim team to maintain reasonable registration fees, allowing more children in the community to participate, which is what the pool's namesake, Bobby Greenwood, envisioned when she established the team in 1959. It is Patty's belief that fireworks will end up in Winners, whether they are purchased in Winners or not. At least with the booths, they are here legally and benefit the community.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, Jack, I see your hand still up. If you got something real quick, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. Just a real brief comment in regards to the lottery system. I think that's a bad idea just because we have so many unique groups in this town that all have their own sort of fundraisers that they rely on. Rotary, has the gala that we have. Some organizations have raffles and events. That these are kind of a traditional fundraiser that the organizations rely on, and mixing that up would, I think, cause some consternation in the community that would probably ultimately be unwanted. So just something to keep in mind as that item is discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Tina Loudon, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'll do the video too. I love the fireworks. I love the fireworks at high school. I think it's a wonderful celebration. My family comes from San Francisco and Vallejo and Vacaville, and they do purchase the Safe and Sane fireworks. We have it out in front on the street. We have a lot of water around. So I really feel that, I hear you, Sally Brown, but I really feel this is a great way, like they say, as a fundraiser for the two organizations. So my vote is for both to continue and to look at, to get the fireworks going for either July 3rd or July 4th.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, do you see any other hands?
I am not seeing any other hands.
Okay, is there any more comment or thoughts from council? Or wait a minute, you know what? Before you do, Chief Lopez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Hey, I'd just like to kind of highlight and expand upon City Manager Kathleen Trepa's report and hopefully answer some questions that have been raised, particularly with Mr. Vickery. So the fire department is currently evaluating the fireworks ordinance, and that relates to the health and safety code sections 125-500 through 127-26. And really just ensuring that our current ordinance meets the current health and safety code and the state fire marshal's requirements. In addition to that, some discussion in reference to the lottery system. So that's an idea or a concept. It's not state mandated. It's not a fire code, but it is something that the city could look into. Our current ordinance allows for a process similar to a lottery that identifies permit applicants should there be an excessive amount of permit applicants applying for a booth. Currently, our ordinance restricts the amount of permits that are issued per year, and that's based on a population of 4,500 per, or one permit per population of 4,500 people, which essentially allows 2 booths in our community. That's, you know, another thing that could be looked at. Again, it's not mandated or addressed in the state fire code, but if changes were to be made, you know, it could increase potential for booth applications, whether that's a need or a fit in our community. It's good to hear feedback from folks here on tonight on kind of what they would like to see. So we appreciate your guys' feedback and input. And if anybody else has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Chief Lopez. Chief Miller, do you have any quick comments to make regarding the fireworks?
No, sir, other than I can assure the community, we will be upstaffing on that weekend for the illegal fireworks that we experience every year.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lauren.
Yeah, I had a question for either City Manager Trepa or for Chief Lopez. It's about the fireworks on the 3rd or the 4th. Could either one of you address the reason why it's cheaper on the 3rd?
Councilmember Lauren, I might be able to help with that. In my past experience, our previous fire chiefs, both Chief Dozier and Chief Hitter, were licensed pyrotechnicians, and they both provided the shows for the city of Winters during their tenure as chiefs. I, along with them, shot with them for many, many years. And so one of the things that was afforded to the city is they were dedicated to providing the shows for the city of Winters on the 4th of July. One of the challenges with the pyrotechnics companies is, yes, they do offer a decreased rate for not shooting on the 4th of July because there are only a limited amount of licensed pyrotechnicians. And a lot of cities, communities do their shows on the 4th. So they do offer that as an incentive to decrease by not shooting on the 4th of July and doing it on the 3rd. Why we chose that, I'm not sure. Probably just as a method to save money for the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of knew the history, but I didn't know. Yeah, it was better hearing it from you. And then my other question is mainly for Chief Lopez and Chief Miller and the city. So if we do have the fireworks and we do have to check temperatures as one of the public comments mentioned that maybe checking COVID tests or checking temperatures or checking whether or not people have been tested. What kind of a staff responsibility is that and cost to the city?
Yeah.
Lopez, let me take that. I do not believe that would fall to police or fire.
Yeah, sorry, I was searching for my mute button, so I was a little slow on the trigger thinking about that one. To be honest with you, we have not actually pulled together a staffing plan to understand what that might look like, and my guess is that we would really need to rely on a large cadre of volunteers to help us implement those types of regulations. I mean, one place to look would be if there were 300 people for prom, how long did it take and how did they actually manage the groups coming in for prom to verify COVID testing and or vaccination, and if any of those youth were vaccinated. And so it would take, I think, some time to filter everybody in. I think the alternative approach, my personal recommendation would be the alternative approach is to shoot the fireworks without attendees. Maybe that's the compromise, but it would take some logistical effort to organize a fireworks show where we'd have to comply with those types of regulations. And I don't know what that looks like. I haven't researched it.
Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Okay, any other council questions? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I do see Corinne Martinez has her hand up. I don't know if you want to let her speak or before me or after me.
Okay, Corinne.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. And since we don't have the luxury of having any licensed pyrotechnics in the city anymore, do we know how much the difference in the price would be to have it on the 4th versus the 3rd? That might be something I would just be curious to know that. I appreciate what former chiefs, did, Kidder and Dozier. We don't have that luxury anymore, but what would the difference in price be?
My recollection from the first year after Scotty was gone, it was kind of twofold. One, they didn't have a technician available for us, so they offered us a bigger, better show if we went with the 3rd, because it would be easy for them to staff it for us. So that's what I know about the history of that. What the exact dollars are, I'm not aware, and I don't know if Kathleen has that information or not.
I don't. They initiated the proposal offering the 3rd and offering to maintain that 13,000 by reducing the shell size. So I'd have to reach out and ask her specifically for a quote for the 4th. And I can do that. I can send that email.
Thank you. And I also, just last comment, know that in the past, private citizens have stepped up to help fund this show because it's so fantastic. So I'd hate to see us not do it because we don't think we have the funding without.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Thank you for that. In fact, most of the funds we have for the fireworks have come from private donations from citizens here in town. So it's always been the major part of the fireworks show has been individual donations, Canada's hardware, places like that, and then some more substantial donations from a few of our citizens here in town that have always donated towards the fireworks, and then the city would just kind of maybe come in and help make up the difference. But Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi, you have a few comments?
Yeah, I do. I do see one more hand up. I see Kate Laddish with a hand up if you would like to take her comments first.
Okay, you keep passing the buck here, but okay. Kate, go ahead real quick.
Thanks, Mayor. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And one thought is that if we were to have a fully congregate city-sponsored fireworks show and also allow the use of private fireworks, that might make us very attractive for people to come from other areas to here, both to watch the fireworks in a congregate setting and set off their own fireworks. That's what's happened in the past. And something that's been emphasized in other jurisdictions is that when you have that sort of thing, when you have that sort of mixing event, that we can't count on what has been a lower lower rate of COVID spread here in Yolo County than in some of our neighboring counties, really protecting us because we'd be mixing in some other folks. And so I just wanted to add that to the mix. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. So I appreciate all the comments from the public tonight on this topic. I know it's something that's can be controversial for some people, but I mean, I would say on my thoughts on this is I agree with just about everything that Corinne Martinez said. I think the fireworks show at the high school field, it's an annual tradition that's been going on and it's very well liked in town. I understand the risks involved and the uncertainties with a year like this, with the COVID restrictions and where we're going to be. I would like to see us move forward with it. And, you know, maybe we can look into getting a pricing for what's the difference between the 3rd and the 4th of July and doing it that way. And also look into the possibility of not having people go in the high school, but just be locating themselves wherever they want around town and watching from there. And that takes the high school, kind of some of the burden off of the high school field and that type of it. I'd like to see us look into that. And maybe if we can wait until we have a little more certainty, but not, if we wait till the 30 days before, we may be out of luck. They may be all booked up and, we may be out of luck having the 3rd, 4th, whatever it might be. But I would like to see us look into it more. I think it's a great tradition. We should try to continue it. It would, I think, help morale for a lot of people who've been so tired of being stuck in home for the last year with the shelter-in-place orders. And as far as the fireworks booths, I say, I think it's a great fundraising opportunity for some of our local youth organizations. We could maybe consider, I'd be in favor of keeping those there. And I would like to say that the fire chief should continue with looking at updating the ordinance. We can look at maybe implementing a lottery system, but not for this year because I think it is too late in the game to do something like that this year. But I think that's something we could consider later on if we bring back these changes to our code. So those are my main comments on this. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilmember New.
I just wanted to comment on the non-safe and sane fireworks. And if we're having a lot of people coming into town and to see our show, they may bring a lot of things in with them. I think that it would be important that we make very public the fact that we're going to enforce the safe and sane or the illegalness of the non-safe and sane fireworks. I don't know how much we can actually do to enforce it, but at least to let the public know that we don't want them used in town and try to keep it to the safe and sane fireworks. I think that's the only thing that we are able to do. Make an effort is, I guess, what I'm saying. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson, do you have any comments regarding the fireworks?
Yes, Mayor. I could support the tradition of having the swim team and the Little League, as they've done in the past, coordinate the locals' safe and sane fireworks marketing. A lot of work goes into those booths. Don't forget, you got to clean up the day after. And it seems to spur the use of illegal fireworks, if anything. Certainly doesn't make them slow down. But I could live with it in the local saying. I can tell you.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson.
One more comment.
Okay.
Our kids went through the Little League program here, and some of the swim team program. And then there's a lot of effort goes into making this thing happen. You can't just say, okay, the firemen go out and clean up the place and make it safe. It's relying on the parking lots have to be cleaned. Fields have to be cleaned when we're using them. Hopefully there are no fire hazards out there, which can't make the fire go away. I think that's a crapshoot, whether it will happen or not. That's about it for my 10 cents.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. Councilmember Lauren.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for being part of this conversation. Like Mayor Pro Tem Biasi, I do support having our annual show. I think it's part of our long traditions being in winters, and I think it's valuable, whether it's the 3rd or the 4th. I would just do whatever's most cost effective. Our city does have a structural deficit. We have asked people to take a cut in pay. We will have to undertake costs to staff this event, and I want to be mindful that is a cost to the city. So I support having the event however we can have the event, whether it's with a crowd or not. With that said, I wanted to address the second issue about the fire booths. And I'm going to preface it by saying that, you know, I was part of the Greater Winters fire relief effort to provide funding for people all around the Greater Winters area. And if you toured those houses and you sat with those people, you might feel like I do that, you know, things have changed. Our climate has changed. Our fire season has changed. Fire is more prevalent, more dangerous. It's hotter. It's drier. And for all those reasons, I find the home fireworks to be dangerous and something that I think that Yolo County should probably phase out completely. The information that came to me via text calls and emails was basically that message that times have changed, not just because of the pandemic, but because of drought and heat but I also, in the other breath, must say that all 3 of my kids did swim team. My son did Little League. I've sold hot dogs in that stand and done timing and put my kid in the Speedo and everything. I mean, it's part of our community. So I would just say that if in the future we go in the direction of phasing out the selling of fireworks as a fundraiser, I think that we should have robust conversations about other ways to find money to support these programs, whether it's a 1 cent sales tax, whether it's a cannabis tax, whatever it is. I think that these are conversations we should have had, or we should have. And then the last thing I'll say is some of the emails and texts that I got were about how it was $7 or maybe $7.50 a lap swim in the city of Winters, but it was $5 in Esparto. Well, Esparto has a parcel tax that helps pay for those community resources. They also have YMCA run their program. There's different models out there, and I just want to say it's okay. It's okay for us to embrace change, to not be afraid of it, to look for successful programs. And if COVID hasn't taught us anything, it's that we need to change and look at other options. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a few comments I want to make on this topic as well. First of all, in regard to the fireworks show, I'm completely in favor of keeping our fireworks show and bringing it back. If we got to make up a little bit of difference for it, then so be it. If anything, I think if we're able to have a show this year, it should be bigger and better than it was in years past, simply because we haven't had one for 3 years. I know there's some issues with that. I agree with some of the comments that if it's necessary in order to be able to use the high school facility, because that is the best and pretty much the only safe place to let off a fireworks show in our city. If that means we can't have anybody in the stands, then so be it. If it means we're limited to the number of people in the stands, maybe an idea is it's more than $2 to get into the stands, and that helps pay for it. And that could be a lottery. But I think we need to have the show back, either on the 3rd or the 4th. And however we have to pay for it, we have to pay for it. I think it brings a lot of business into town, and I think that helps make up the difference. You have a lot of sales at a lot of businesses. I've talked to several business owners that say it's a huge night for them, where they sell out, they're super busy. So, that means that's bringing in more revenue for the city. It's not a complete loser if people are here spending money. As far as the fireworks booths go, I don't want to have more booths. I think 2 is plenty. I think our current ordinance with 1 for every 4,500 people is perfectly fine. I don't want to see them separated in different sides of town. I like the fact they're in one place and everybody knows where it's at. And in regards to the money that they raise, we've talked about the fact that, those figures were a little off kilter, but with the money they do raise, one of the things that I've been shared by people in town, and I got a couple of phone calls from John Rodriguez with Little League, and it was also shared by somebody from the swim team. We have some of the lowest rates around for joining the swim team and joining Little League. And the reason we have some of the lowest rates in the area to participate in those activities, which enables more people of lower income to be able to participate, is because of the money they raise outside of those registration fees. And for Little League, that's the crab feed and fireworks. For swim team, it's solely based on the money they raise from fireworks. That's why they end up being the bigger seller, because Little League kind of steps back and lets them have the lion's share for that reason, because they know it's their only chance to help reduce those registration fees. So I think that's vitally important. We have a lot of lower income folks in town that their kids want to play Little League, their kids want to swim on a swim team. And if it wasn't for the money that is raised by those safe and sane fireworks booths, our rates would probably be half again or double what they currently are. And a lot of those folks would not be able to participate. So that makes me in the camp of, I'm okay with the safe and sane. Another piece to that is the obvious fire hazard. Everybody I know that has little gatherings at their house and stuff for 4th of July, those things are let off in the street with a bucket of water or a garden hose right there. And my recollection of all the recent fires in the hills behind us, 6 out of the last 7 years, and Chief Lopez can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe only one of those fires were shown to be caused by fireworks, and it was caused by illegal fireworks shot off outside of the city limits along the Pewter Creek in one of the fishing areas. So it's not the safe and sane fireworks that are starting fires, it's the illegal fireworks. And that's where I completely agree with Councilmember New that we need to have maximum enforcement on that night, and crack down as much as possible on the illegal fireworks. I know this past New Year's, I was just amazed by the amount of illegal fireworks going off in town. And, you know, I really hope we can crack down on that. But I definitely support the safe and sane booths. And I definitely support us going back to having a fireworks show. And I think it sounds like the majority of the council would like to continue the tradition of a fireworks show. And I think that would be our recommendation to staff. But of course, the one thing that everybody needs to know that can throw a monkey wrench in this whole deal is if the school district will not allow us to do the show at the high school. And that's where I think we need to go back at the school district with the option of, if necessary, we won't have anybody in those stands, because a good majority of our citizens watch the fireworks from their own front yards or backyards. I've never been in the stadium. I've always watched it from somebody's yard. So I don't think that's as important getting in the stands as it is just being able to enjoy it with a few friends and family, which is technically a COVID safe thing to do. So I'm in favor of planning for it as much as possible. And, you know, in waiting till the very last minute we can to cancel it, where we can still get our money back or roll our money over. I understand the need for the deadline from the company, but we need to do what we can to get back to some sense of normalcy. And having the fireworks would be a great way to start that. So that's my 2 cents. I don't think we need to have any votes on this. I think this was mostly just an advisory thing. And I think we've probably heard enough to come to conclusions for that. If not, please speak up. City manager?
No, I think the direction is clear. So I will work with the school district. I do think the option or the alternative of no attendees may be very beneficial given the circumstances. And I think that takes it a concern out of the equation. I do think increased enforcement for the illegal fireworks is probably something that's going to happen in our near future. And I'll get a quote from the fireworks company to see if there's any sort of cost differential between the 3rd and the 4th.
Okay, I did have one more note here that I forgot to touch on, and that's the lottery system for the booths. I've given that one a whole lot of thought, and I've had comments from several people in town that have other fundraising events and stuff. And I think that would be, a lottery system would be opening a can that would lead us down a slippery slope that we don't want to be sliding on. And that is because I'm sure every organization in town would love to have Youth Day's duck race with the amount of money it raises every year. And I'm sure there's a lot of organizations that would love to have the Youth Day beer booth or the Earthquake beer booth or the Carnitas Festival beer booth. And every comment I've gotten is if fireworks are going to a lottery, so is every other fundraising event in town. And I don't think that's a slope we want to go sliding down. I think that'd be a landing at the bottom of the slope that none of us want to make. So that's my 2 cents on the lottery as well.
One more
Mayor
comment.
Pro
Mayor.
Tem.
Yeah, I would just like to also add one more step of direction to the city manager. When you do contact the fireworks company, you know, I understand there's a 35%, I think it was, of our
The refund?
the amount would be forfeited, but we would, you know, find out if we'd be able to roll that over into next year if we decide to cancel because of certain restrictions, or if there's a fire going on in the hills again, things like that. Could we roll over that deposit?
Yeah, they were kind enough to do that previously, so I think that would be good. And I would, you know, I would also give direction that, you know, with the current estimate for the fireworks of 13,000, if no more donations come in from the community, then we stick with that amount and we make up the difference. But if more donations come in, I'd like to see us get to a $15,000 show and get some of those 6-inch shells back. And so if some community members want to step up and, you know, add some money to the pot, and then we still kick in $2,500 or, you know, the amount we were going to have to stick in at the current rate, then I say, let's have a bigger show. Let's make up for the fact that we haven't had a show for 3 years.
I obviously haven't seen the show, so I'll ask her to quote what was done previously, which included the 6-inch shows. I don't know if that's big enough, and if you want bigger, I can get a range of quotes.
Depends on how much money we can come up with. I don't think they'd have any problem adding to it.
I'm seeing a couple people in the chat indicating that they might be able to help us out.
So, okay. I'm
I
sure
also
Taylor
saw-
will make sure it's in the paper.
I also saw a comment in the chat. There was a recommendation with another pyrotechnics company with a phone number. We might want to contact them for a quote as well.
Okay.
I'll look for that. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, here.
Mayor,
Okay.
Mayor,
Okay,
one last
Go ahead, Harold.
one last comment. When the safe and sane fireworks are utilized, that there be, talking about residents and winners are congregating, that there be just a bucket of water on standby for disposing of their, because typically they go off after the show. Everybody congregates and smokes up the area.
Absolutely. Okay.
Water bucket.
I think we've sufficiently worked this one over, so I think we're going to go ahead and move on. Our next item is an update on the pool operations and programming. This should be as much fun as the
I was gonna say,
fireworks.
keeping the
Go
fireworks
team.
coming. Although I do appreciate everybody's respectful comments, so thank you very much. This next item is obviously also of significant community interest, and this is really intended just to be an update for the community and for the city council related to our pool operations. And as I think some people are aware, but not everybody, this current fiscal year of 2021, there was no funding that was built into the budget to support the pool operation. And that was due to the drastic budget cuts that the city had to consider in order to present a balanced budget last June. And so I think the lap swim that was implemented that was consistent with the COVID regulations at the time was done because of the significant community interest. But it did come with obviously a budget impact, and there were no funds that were allocated for the start of this season. We are seeing some uptick economically in terms of crawling out of the pandemic. The finance director, Shelley, has indicated that we can open up the pool early. She thinks we can absorb that within our current revenue projections, and she can talk a little bit more about that. So we have gone ahead and we've opened up a recruitment for the pool manager and for lifeguarding, so we can open the pool in June. Again, we will plan for what the current regulations state we need to follow in terms of pool protocols. And we, again, my expectation for at least an outdoor activity like this is that there should be some relaxing of the protocols come June 15th when the COVID tiers are lifted, assuming that that's where we're headed. However, we don't know what the regulations might be in terms of limiting capacity or limiting occupancy. To me, it feels like a safer environment, but we just don't know what those regulations are. So really, this is just intended to provide a brief overview of where we are with the pool. We do intend to reinitiate or at least plan for the return of our programs in June. We had not anticipated changing any of the fee structure, and I know the lap swim fee of, I think it's $7.50, was an increase over years prior, and that was a new fee that was established to help fund the extra staffing for the health screening as people came into the pool deck. And it also helped cover the cost that's built into the platform that the city implemented last year that allowed for online registration and online fee payment, which is far more efficient for us in terms of handling that information, and especially when we had to limit the number of people who are entering the pool area and able to do lap swim. So we don't yet know what our schedule will be. We don't know what our protocols will be, but we are working towards opening the pool on June 1st. I did also want to make a note in particular about the swim team. The registrations for the swim team in the past have been upwards of 200 children. I obviously haven't been here in years past, but that's one of the areas where for us, public safety is paramount with the community's youth. So we do want to make sure that we are having lifeguards on the deck, and we're running the swim program in a manner that is standard and typical for a municipal swim team. My guess is that we will need to scale the swim team program so we can manage how many kids are in the pool and on the deck at any given time to make sure we're following whatever the protocols are at the time. So that's really just an update. Hopefully it's good news because we will be reopening. I don't know what the program looks like at this point, but we are working in, I think, a positive direction. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any council questions before we open it up for public comment? Councilmember Lauren.
I just had one. I heard Corinne Martinez mention earlier that that she would support the booths to make money for the nonprofits. Is Swim Team a nonprofit in the City of Winters?
No, it's not. So the swim team has been, it's essentially a recreational swim team. So it was an independent group at some point, and Shelley can answer this. It came to the city at some point in the past, but it's not a nonprofit. It's not a 501c3. The city is not only the fiduciary agent, but we pay for the coaching, and we hold the money. We're responsible for the money. We pay for the coach. We handle all the registration. So unlike other programs where the swim team rents the pool and rents the water, and it's a contractual relationship, this is actually a municipal recreational swim team. It's our program. It's been coordinated by volunteers since the beginning of time. And at one point it was an independent entity, but it hasn't been. And Shelley can speak to when it transferred over to the city.
Thank you.
Shelley.
Hi.
Fill us in.
So about 9 years ago, Bobby Greenwood came to John Donlevy and asked that the city take over the responsibility for handling the finances of the swim team program. And as a part of doing that, Bobby was doing all of it on her own at that point. So as part of doing that, we took over basically all of the responsibilities except running the actual day-to-day coaching functions. We hired the employees, we paid the employees. They're on our payroll. They get W-2s from the City of Winters. The funding comes from Bobby brought us the money that she had sitting in a bank account for the swim team and turned it over to the city. And so we used that to set up a separate fund for the swim team. It's accounted for 100% separately. And the funding comes from the registration, swimsuit purchases, and the fireworks dues. And all of the expenses are paid for out of those funding sources. So Bobby just felt like she was getting to the point where she couldn't handle all of the bookkeeping. And there were a lot of kids involved and she needed some help. So she came to John and John took that on. So we have been overseeing the financial affairs of this swim team for quite some time. They still ran, Bobby until about 3 years ago was still really active in running the fireworks booth, and she'd come up every day with her bag of cash and she and I would count the cash and make sure we both came up with the right number, and then off to the bank it would go. So she has stayed had stayed extremely active, and this was the path she chose to make sure that her legacy with the swim team survived. So we still collect the registrations. Usually the swim coach, we have signups. They can either sign up and pay here at City Hall, or in the past they've had a day where everybody's gone to the pool. We provided them a couple of years ago with a phone where people could pay on PayPal so that they could use their credit card to pay the fees. Last year, there was no swim team because we could not wrap our heads around how we were going to do that in June and July with 200 kids. And we basically made the decision we weren't going to open a pool because at the time we did the budget last year, we had no guidelines for any kind of sporting activities whatsoever from the state, from the county. So this path that we're on is the path that Bobby chose. She wanted us to take over and be able to manage it in her absence. And so that's how this has all happened.
Can't believe that in her early 90s, she thought she needed to give up doing the books.
I know, believe it.
Okay. Is there any other council comments before we go to the public comment? Okay.
Mayor, I would just like to
go
say,
ahead.
you know, I think the direction that the city manager has laid out tonight and in the staff report, I'm in favor of. You know, I think it's a good way to look at it. One thing we can maybe discuss more is what about the fees for the lap swim part of it. You know, the $7.50 per session. I know there's been some comments on, you know, why is that so high where it's $5 in other communities, $4 or $5 or. But I would like to see us look at reinstituting the $50 monthly pass that can be purchased that will lower that cost down of the. I know the lap swimmers are the ones that they go multiple times per week, and that $50 would really help lower it down. If there's people that want to just go, you know, a couple times a month, you know, I think maybe they should pay that higher fee for if you're only going to be an occasional user. And I do understand, you know, we raised it before because of the staffing required to check the COVID symptoms and all that type of stuff. And hopefully by the time we open June 1st, we'll have a clearer direction on, you know, where the state is kind of telling us the guidelines we have to follow through the state. I'm hoping it's going to be a lot easier than last year. So those are comments I have.
Okay. All right. We're going to get going with the public comment here. And Kate Laddish, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And I'll start by saying that I am really excited that aquatics is on this evening's agenda, and that we're having a discussion about what programs might be offered at the Bobby Greenwood Community Swim Center this summer. And I'll start by thanking council and staff for finding a way last year to move forward with having lap swim in an incredibly challenging situation, both with the pandemic and because of finances. And thank you to staff, especially Shelley Gunby, for finding a way this year to perhaps open the pool on June 1st instead of waiting until the next fiscal year on July 1st. I have a couple questions and comments about cost, scheduling, and COVID-19 protocols. So adult lap swim usually costs, as Mayor Pro Tem Biasi mentioned, $50 for a monthly pass, and then a one-day pass is usually $5. And in a month with 30 days, the per swim cost for pass holders who swim daily is $1.67. And so this is the cost structure that was in place when lap swim started last year on March 2nd, 2020. And then, as we know, the COVID-19 pandemic necessitated complete overhaul of the program once we found a way to move forward with it. And Diana Tafoya and Tracy Jensen did a really heavy lift to find a way to do that, and I appreciate that. The changes included limiting the pool use to one person per lane, advance online signups and payment for 1 hour time slots, the mentioned really steep increase in per swim fees to $7.50 without an option for a more economical monthly pass. And on the plus side, allowing, really expanding the lap swim hours. So, I mean, it was from 4:45 to 8:45 on weekdays, and then there were 4 hours times on the weekends. So looking at some of the issues, first cost. Swimming daily at $7.50 per swim costs $225 in a 30-day month. There are a lot of us who traditionally swim 6 or 7 days a week. So that is 4.5 times the usual monthly cost of $50 and completely out of reach for people of limited means. I know there were a number of us who just couldn't swim as much last year, and some people just went other places because of the cost. So I request that we bring the lap swim fees back to usual, or at least closer than usual, and certainly if the other aquatic programs are able to go forward at a usual rate, that it would make sense that then we bring lap swim to a usual rate, especially as mentioned in the staff report. It's the most affordable program. Would be very supportive of going back to having some sort of monthly pass. And if we need to keep things at for just this year with some sort of daily pass instead, because of having to do online scheduling to be in line with COVID protocols, I think it should not be above $5, which is what the daily pass had been before. That would pencil out to $150 per month if you're swimming every day, which is still steep, but it's better. Second, with the scheduling, in normal years, the pool has been occupied from 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning until 8 p.m. at night, on some Tuesdays until 10 p.m. Last year, with the fantastically expanded lap swim time in order to accommodate more than just 16 swimmers in a day, basically, I'm having a hard time thinking about how we would keep the same lap swim situation and yet have all the other programs going. If we have just 2 hours of lap swim, which is what it's been in the past, that's just 16 swimmers per day, which is about half as many swimmers as often are there in the summer. And so then with the COVID safety, it kind of sounds like the proposal is for lap swim to follow the 2020 2020 protocols, but some of the lap swim and swim team and swim lessons that isn't been dialed in. It's completely understandable. We're in a rapidly changing situation, but I think there's a little bit of comparing apples and oranges, and so in terms of trying to figure out the scheduling, I think that's just something that I encourage more thinking and discussion about. Thank you so much for bringing this forward, and I really look forward to getting back in the pool.
Okay, thank you, Kate. In the interest of not being like Davis and ending the meeting on a different day than we started, I'd like it if everybody could keep your comments as condensed as possible. Try to stay under 3 minutes if you can, so that we can get to everybody and all get out of here before tomorrow.
I will go ahead and set it.
Sally Brown, go ahead.
Great, thank you. I won't reiterate what Kate has said. I just want to start by saying that I'm absolutely thrilled about the youth being back in the pool this year. You know, last year I was really advocating for the kids to be in the pool as well. Totally understand that it just couldn't work out, but I am thrilled. I am totally in support of lowering the fee. The daily fee in Esparto is $5. It's $6 in Vacaville. So I think getting it down at least to $6, it's between $5 and $6 for a drop-in fee. But I am in total support of having some kind of discounted swims for those of us who are regular swimmers. In Esparto, they have a 10 swim card that makes it be $4 a swim, and this is during COVID. In Vacaville, I currently pay for a 30 swim card, and that makes my swims $4.40. And in Woodland, they also have the 10 swim card for $40, or they have the $50 unlimited swim. So I would recommend that the city look into how these other communities are able to facilitate those cards. I know in Vacaville, because we pay online every time, when I buy my card, they give me credit. I pay $4.40 a swim, but they give me credit for the $6 swim, so that when I go on and register, it basically is taking $6 out of my credit. So anyways, I think it's doable, and I would highly recommend it. Last year, there were a lot of people I know personally who are regular swimmers who did not swim at all because of the cost. So let's, and so many days I was like, there was 1 or 2 of us in the pool, and there should have been 8 people in that pool. So anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. Patty. No last name on there.
Patty Rominger. And my husband and I have participated in adult lap swim in winters for years and years. It's like a big family. It's just a wonderful feeling. But last year we did start swimming in Esparto because the cost was just so much greater. And so I don't know if I'm still there. Okay, everything's going goofy here. Anyway, I ditto everyone's opinion about getting a pass. One of the other advantages, my husband and I got the passes in Esparto. Because of that, we didn't have to go online every day and reserve a lane. We would just tell them when we came in that night, can we swim tomorrow? And they'd say, sure, here's your reservation. And that was it. So no going online, not having to get my credit card out every single day. It's just an easy breezy experience. So we will continue to swim in Esparto if the cost is going to still be $7.50. If they bring it down to a $50 monthly pass, we will come back to Winters. That would be our choice. But just a little perspective, Rick and I were swimming with a pass in Winters, was $300 for 3 months for the 2 of us. At $7.50, if we swam 5 days a week, it would be $300 a month for 2 of us. So it'd be $900, where previously it was $300. That's it's just too much money. So I hope you get a pass.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Ashley, who's next? I can't see all the faces anymore.
We have Kathleen Callison and then Tina Loudon.
Okay, Kathleen.
Okay, hello. Hi. First of all, I want to apologize for some of the reactions I posted. I am not familiar with reactions. I think I was waving at everybody a few times. So I researched the, well, I've been swimming, doing lap swim here in Winters for years and years also. Love it. And I did some research before this meeting. I contacted Dixon, Vacaville, Woodland, Esparto, and Davis because they're relatively close to our community, and found out that the rate for swimming averages between $4 and $5 a swim maximum if you buy a pass. And seniors use, some places, Woodland has free swimming for seniors. So if you're over 55, you get a discounted rate. So real quick, so that's been discussed, really the cost, but I just want to let you know, I did contact each of those communities and the average is $4 to $5 for a swim at the most, with lower rates for seniors. I wanted to bring up a couple of 3 more items very quickly. Last summer, and I saw people being turned away. They would come not knowing that they had to sign up ahead of time. They had money with them, they wanted to swim, and they were just sent away. I don't think that, I think even on an honor system, we could allow somebody that shows up like that to just swim. And, you know, you could have a cash box with envelopes, let people put money in the box. At least it's good, it's goodwill for the community, I believe, rather than just saying, well, too bad you didn't know the rules, you know, and sending them away. It's a sad thing to be turned away from a pool. So that's one suggestion I have to make. And protocols, it's interesting, I swim masters swim in Vacaville right now in the mornings, and we swim at least 2 to a lane if we need to. The high school swim teams, they're swimming 2 to a lane on a normal basis. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know what the protocols actually are, but having only 1 per lane, or that rule that you cannot have more than, you know, 1 person in a lane, should be looked at. And then the last thing, this is just kind of a side thing, but when I was swimming, the lifeguards would run over at the, I think at the end of the swimming, and spray the handrails with dish soap. And so I didn't know that at first. I'd try to get out, use the ladder to get out of the pool, and I'd slip back down in the water. And so I'd like to suggest that they go to a different type of product, such as one that Vacaville uses, like a disinfectant spray. They mix it half disinfectant, half water. So dish soap is just not too safe. So I think that's all I have to share. Thank you very much for your time too. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Tina Loudon is next.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. How's everybody, the city council? As you know, Jerry and I are swimmers. We are now within shape and we pay $4 if you average it for the whole month for us, for $4 a day if we swim every day. I'm not swimming. I broke 3 bones in my right foot. It sucks. The cost is just too high. Too high. $750 is just too high. We've always had issues with scheduling. There are times when we drive by the pool, there's nobody there, and it behooves us when it's 104 degrees outside, and we would love to be in the pool. The other issue I would like to suggest is looking into a senior time, senior discounts. Some seniors don't want to do lap swimming. They just want to go into that side pool and move around. We need that for seniors, just to move around. And lastly, I am so glad that folks are swimming. I'm glad my husband's swimming and I miss it. Ciao.
Thank you, Tina. Ashley, anybody else with their hand up?
No, there's nobody else with their hand up. I did have a written comment submitted by email.
Okay. Okay.
Let me pull that up really quick. Okay, just a reminder that this is a summary. I'm not reading the full comment. You can read the full comment if you're interested on the city's website. It will be posted next to today's packet and agenda. So this comment was from Deborah D'Angelo, a resident of the city of Winters. Deborah submitted a written comment and would like the lap fees to be reconsidered. There was a fee increase last year to $7.50 per day. Deborah feels that for people that would like to swim daily, this is unreasonable. Deborah would also like to see a monthly pass reinstated. The previous fee was $50 per month. Deborah wrote that by increasing rates, the city is losing money due to the fact that less people are able to participate in lap swim. Deborah feels that the pool is a community resource similar to city parks, and with the fee of $7.50 per day, not everybody has equal access. Deborah would like council to revisit this rate.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, is there any further council comment, guidance, recommendation? What do we think? Mayor Pro Tem.
Just reiterate what I said earlier. I think we definitely should look into the monthly pass. I think some other good options to look into tonight that were brought up were you can buy a card that entitles you to so many swims. You pay a specific price for that card and it gets punched each time you go. Those are good things that we could look into. I don't know if we can implement those into our system in time, but I think it's worth checking into. Those are all good suggestions. I'm really happy to see the pool, being scheduled to open back up, and I'm definitely in favor of the city covering the costs for those first couple of months that we didn't budget for in our previous budget until we get to July 1st. So I think it's worth taking that out of some other anticipated funding that Shelley has identified and using that to get our pool open and make it available for the lap swim, for the swim team, for the recreational swim, for all these programs. It's important.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lauren.
Yeah, I support the staff report, and I also hear loud and clear that, like myself, people love the pool. People love swimming. They want it to be available for lap swim. They want to have multiple swimmers. They want to have youth swim. I think these are all great goals. I think there's an underlying concern that in the city of Winters has sort of cobbled together a path forward with Bobby Greenwood handing over the reins in, what was the year, 2008 or so. And I think that we overall, as we move forward with our budget discussions for next year, need to start talking about having a community recreation hire, somebody who can look at our programs for swim and maybe recreation and the seniors. And we need to have a more long-term projection of what we're doing as opposed to just trying to figure it out for the season. But I'm really happy that for this season, we'll be able to have some swimmers in the pool.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember New.
Just want to add my name to the list of people who are supportive of having the pool open as much as possible and lowering the cost as much as possible. So if we find that we can't originally start the program without lowering the daily pass to $5 or the monthly pass to $50, if we can open it at that, open it and then lower the pass cost or the monthly pass, the daily fee, lower them as our economic condition improves, and I hope it will improve rapidly. I think that would be good. And let's also try to keep the pool open as long as possible this year. And maybe the longer we keep it over, the longer we keep it open, the better our economic condition will be, and we'll attract more swimmers. So that's, I just want to say that I hear what people are saying and I support it, and I will be in there swimming with the rest of the people.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Anderson, do you have any comments regarding the pool?
Sounds like I'm not much of a swimmer, but I certainly not opposed to helping out those who want to take advantage of it, if we can do it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with a lot of the other comments that have been made, and I really do think that, you know, we need to find a way to have some kind of a monthly pass or fee, or one of these multi-swim cards. I think might even be better than a monthly pass card, because then, you know, maybe somebody uses five of the spots or 6 of the spots one month and 4 the next. But I think that's a really good idea, and it'll help bring the cost down for folks. And because I think this is another one of those things that, you know, if the price keeps going up and up and up, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that can't afford it, and especially with the seniors. And I'd definitely be open to hearing some proposals for maybe a special rate for seniors or people over 50 or something, you know, because they're less likely to have a, you know, a steady income. So I know it's all about the money and how much is, you know, how much we spend and how much we bring in and how we pay for it. And on that topic, Shelley, is the school coming anywhere close to paying their share of the swimming pool expenses? The school district.
Well,
I know that's been an issue in the past.
so typically during the summer season, when we run the pool, we pay all the costs of the pool. During the season when the school is also using the pool, we pay 50% and the school pays 50% of the cost. You know, but who knows, the repairs, something could get broke right at the end of summer season and we pay 100% of the cost because we're still the one using the pool, or something could be broken right as things start and the school district's only paying 50% of the repairs. The pool does not make, it has never in the entire 24 plus years I've worked here, the pool never makes enough money to cover its costs. Never. So we have a contract with the school district. They pay half the gas, they pay half the water, they pay half the electricity, they pay half the repairs during the time period that both the city and the school, or just the school, is using the pool. The rest of the time, 100% of the cost goes to the city is paid for by the city of Winners. So typically that's from the time school gets out until the time school starts, or maybe a little bit longer, probably through the middle of September, I think is the time frame where we cover 100% of the cost. The rest of the year, it's a 50-50 split.
So to
Okay,
add,
I just looking for ways to help out without laying it on the citizens, that we put the pool in for. So, it's an amenity to the city that everybody wants to be able to enjoy and use and at a reasonable rate. I wish it could be free. But I know it costs a lot to operate that pool. But at the same time, I don't want to price everybody out of it to where nobody can afford to use it. And then it just sits there and we're spending all this money for an empty pool. That's not, that's not productive either. So I think we need to definitely keep the cost down as much as possible.
so if I might add, Mr. Mayor, just a final thought is that community facilities and amenities like this, they never pay for themselves in any community.
I'm sure.
It's always a general fund subsidy, and we do so because they contribute to the quality of life in a community. So there's no expectation on the part of staff that this facility cover 100% of its cost. The other thing I was going to share is that the very last item on the agenda as we move forward on the agenda is actually the fee schedule, and it's Shelley's item, and embedded in that fee schedule is the lap swim fee. So should the council want to reduce that fee tonight at this point, you can do so during that agenda item as part of that resolution.
Okay. All right. So once again, this is an item we don't need to vote on. This was just informational and given direction. So I think we've sufficiently done that. So we are going to move on. All right. Next up on the discussion items is an appointment by me of a council ad hoc subcommittee related to the modifications to the development agreement with Homes by Town. I've had conversation with the city manager about this item, and I'm more than happy to be one half of this ad hoc to talk with the developers about the changes they're wanting to make. And so I just need one other member of the council to join me on that. Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi?
I would be happy to.
You got it. All right. I think that's all we needed for, do we need to have the council vote to approve that committee? You're on mute.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I would recommend that the council make a motion.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Lauren moves to appoint Mr. Bill Biasi to fill the mayoral appointment to the ad hoc subcommittee related to modifications to the development agreement for Homes by Town.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New. Ashley, can you please do a roll call vote?
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Wade and Bill now have another committee to sit on. Yippee. Okay, now we're going to move on to public hearings. See if we can whip through these a little quicker than the discussion items.
Actually, Mayor, you had added 2 agenda
Oh,
items.
you're right.
Right. The discussion.
Boy,
Consent items 3 and 4.
getting excited about getting to move on. Okay, so we're going to go back to consent item number 3, which is now item number 5 on the discussion. And that's the one that was in relationship to the electrical car chargers.
Yes.
So I'm the one that moved that one. And my concern is in the staff report, it indicates that that's going to cost us over $10,000 a year to pay for electricity for people's electric cars. I've brought this up before and I'm 100% against it. If we're going to pay for the electricity for people's electric cars, I want a fuel pump for diesel and gas. It's that simple. I do not see where the city, with our finances as strapped as they are, give that $10,000 to the fireworks and the swimming pool. Let the people with electric cars pay for the power to move their cars, just like the people with diesel and gas vehicles. That's my 2 cents. Is there any other comment from council?
Well,
Mayor Pro
I
Tem.
think maybe we may need some clarification on this from the city manager and from our finance director. I believe that 10,000 was a one-time funding, and is that just to help bring the power to the chargers? Am I understanding that correctly?
Eric, can you jump in? I think there was a one-time charge, and then I think the chargers themselves, the car charging stations themselves come with a credit card payment, right? So we'll be.
Okay, I didn't find that anywhere in the staff
Right.
report because I was looking and I didn't see where it said that they were going to pay, and that was my concern.
I'll let
Yeah.
Eric respond.
So to clear it up, I apologize. I don't know that staff report was done a while ago, and anyway, the $10,000 that was mentioned in this whole project was money that we had budgeted to pull power out of the alley. So we can get power from the Rural 28 project, pull power out of the alley. We only had a certain amount of money, so we took $10,000 from our budget, put it towards that. The other $150,000 is from the grant, but all 4 of the chargers will have a card read, and whoever used it has to pay for it. So it will be no expense to the city at all.
Okay, I'm happy. Anybody else?
Yeah, question. So I agree with Mayor on that. The people who are using those chargers need to be paying for what they're using. Question is who's going to determine the rate that they're paying? Is there like a standard rate that will be charged, or how is that determined?
There is a standard rate that there's a program that the companies you buy them from can come up with different numbers. You can have, like, say, members of whatever group could pay a certain amount. There's all kinds of ways of changing that. But we wanted to just make it pay for itself. So
yeah, obviously
we're not in the business of making money off people, but it needs to be able to pay for itself. So whatever that is, and that may change if rates go up, then that number is going to have to go up. So it's all programmable, and we'll make sure that nothing's coming out of the city's pocket.
Sounds good. That's all I'm asking for, is that it pays for itself and that we not provide it free to people. So,
remember, I sit right next to the finance director now, so it get pretty rough.
Thank you. Any other comment on this item from council or public? Tina Loudon. You're on mute.
Muted.
Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering, thank you, Mayor Cowan. What about the chargers at the community center? I know I have friends that have, they go there, it's free. So what about them, Eric?
Those, as soon as the council approves this, those will be ordered, and the ones that are there existing are going to be pulled out, and the new ones will be installed there. Yes, and your friends, whoever they plug it in at nighttime, and then they come back in the morning and pick up their car. And some of them are Teslas, and if you can afford a Tesla, you should be able to pay for the way to charge it. So
absolutely.
But yeah, those we're going to have to hold off till the summer, and we get this project going on the alley to get power for the ones in the parking lot across the street from City Hall. But Rotary, those will be ordered tomorrow if this passes tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment from public or council? If there isn't, we'll entertain a motion for the item.
I would like to move the item to adopt resolution 2021-15, approving a construction contract with Ampla Electric for the design and installation of 4 electric car charging stations.
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi to approve this item with card readers. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Eric, go. All right, moving on to consent item number 4, that is now item number 6. Okay, who pulled that one?
I believe it was,
Bill.
well, I believe it was
Derek.
pushed down on, no, I believe it was because we're changing the time and the assistant city attorney told us that we had to pull it off the consent calendar
Oh,
so that
that's
somebody
it.
could make the motion changing the time to 3 p.m. on Friday to implement the street closure.
I take
Okay.
Come on, Bill.
I move that we approve resolution 2021-17. Oh, that's the wrong resolution, sorry. That we 2021-16 modifying the street closure starting at 3 o'clock instead of 3:30 and reopening on Monday morning as stated in the resolution.
Okay, and I see a hand by Councilmember New for a second. So we have that motion by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi and the second by New. So if there's no further comment on that item, we'll save ourselves some overtime. Ashley, roll call vote.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we get to move on to the public hearings. First up, public hearing and presentation on state community development block grant program and funding and solicit citizen input on community needs. Who's taking this one?
You got that, Joanna?
Sorry.
Okay.
I could make a comment about the public hearings, since each of these are a separate item in and to themselves. For each item, you would open up the public hearing, and after public comment, you would close the public hearing, and then there would be council discussion. And if there is any action to be taken, then you would take it after council discussion. And it looks like that there would be action for items 2, 3, and 4 because they contain resolutions.
Okay, all right, that's what we'll do. Thank you very much. Okay, who's going to tell us about item number 1?
So I'm gonna introduce both of these, and then perhaps if there are questions, I'll have Colleen Brock with Yolo County Housing, who helps administer our grant program. She is available and on the call, waiting patiently because these are complex funding sources. So the first public hearing under the state's community development block grant is to take public input as part of the public hearing on how best to utilize this year's notice of funding availability, non-COVID regular community development block grant funds. And this is the regular community development block grant program, not associated with COVID. Those were the previous ones. And so this money can be used for a variety of purposes to support eligible activities, which are associated with low to moderate income homeowners assistance, housing rehabilitation programs, housing drought rental assistance programs, public facility and public improvements and infrastructure projects, public service programs, planning studies, economic development, business assistance, and micro enterprise activities, which benefit lower income communities and residents. And I should state that the reason we have both of these CDBG related items on the agenda back to back is because of the original timeframe in which to approve these items. So typically this item would come first, we would take public input, and then we would come back at a subsequent meeting and we would present a grant application. At the time that we were running these programs, we missed the public hearing notice opportunity. So we've put these items on the agenda, this one first, and then the second CDBG item is the staff's recommendation for an actual grant application. So this item is just to take public input with regard to what the community would like to see us focus our grant application on. And quite admittedly, the second item is the staff's recommendation on what we should apply for. We did this back to back because at the time the applications were due in May. However, we were recently notified that the state has now extended the application to submit these deadlines because they have been overloaded in terms of processing these applications. So we have another 45 days, and Colleen can verify what the due date is to be able to submit an actual application. So I would recommend that we open this public hearing for this item, which is taking input on how to spend or what to apply for in terms of the grant application. And Colleen can explain a little bit about what's involved in this NOFA, because there are 3 categories with which we can request funding, and each has their own cap. Colleen, do you want to just provide a brief presentation on what the NOFA covers in the 3 different categories?
I think that's on the next item, not this one.
Okay, sorry, I already blew it. So let's just open the public hearing then and take community input.
Okay, then we will officially open the public hearing at 9:12 p.m. And we'll take any public comment. And I see a hand up from Kate Laddish. Kate, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21, and I will try to be expeditious with this. Noting one of the categories is urgency and issues that involve perhaps also safety. And 2 items come to mind that would be particularly helpful to address. One is that as our climate changes here, we will have decreased overnight cooling. And globally, heat is actually the #1 weather-related killer, and people who have limited means are disproportionately affected by that. So if there is a way to help retrofit some structures to make it so that people could be safer during times where there is a heat wave with lack of overnight cooling, I think that would really benefit our community. It would also help meet some proposed greenhouse gas limitations, because people would not be running their air conditioners all the time. And a second and actually related one would be that there may be ways to help harden homes and other structures against wildfire. Some of these actually work well together. Windows that insulate well and seal tightly protect against smoke. They also help insulate and so keep a building cooler during periods of high heat. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Is there anybody else? Ashley, I'm not seeing any hands at my end.
I am not seeing any hands.
And we have no written comment on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 9:13. Okay, council, any thoughts on this item? This one does not require a vote, I believe.
I have a few thoughts, and then I know some of the direction that staff has provided, and and it will be the recommendation, I believe, in the next item on our agenda for discussion is for the senior services planning and funding a position for that. I think that's a very good use. And if I read this right, and I think I'm getting these 2 agenda items mixed up, but I think there was a cap of 500,000, and I would like to see us, if there's other opportunities as well, because I think in the recommendation, we're going to apply for 350 for the senior services part of it. But if there's other uses where we could apply, whether it's 2 separate applications or however that needs to be done, but some other ideas of where that other 150,000 might be applied for, and not just leave it on the table, not even apply for it. We have no chance of getting it. We could, I'm sure, identify some other uses, especially since we have an extra 45 days to consider that.
Excellent suggestion. I agree. Anybody else? Councilmember New, unmute yourself.
Thank you. Being that money is just sitting on the table, I was wondering if we could use some of that money to help low-cost housing. We always have trouble getting low-cost housing built, so if some of that money could go toward that, I would be much in favor of it. Thank you.
Agreed. Councilmember Lauren.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. I think everybody's comments are really right on tonight. I like the idea of low-cost housing, but I also like the idea of bringing back help for first-time home buyers. It seems like the market is just a really big struggle at this time. So if there's some way to bring back any help for first-time home buyers or low-cost housing, I think that those are really good benefits to our community. And Kate Laddish's point about home hardening or cooling centers, These are all things that would benefit our community. And I think we should go for the maximum amount anytime possible.
Yep, I agree. Okay, with that, I think we're going to move on to the next item, which is directly related. Resolution 2021-19 about one of the grant applications for CDBG. Who's going to explain this one for us?
So
Colleen?
I'm going to ask Colleen to explain
Okay,
the actual
Colleen.
NOFA and the categories because she's our resident expert.
Great. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor Cowan and council members. I know it's confusing, as Kathleen said, with having these two items together with all of these applications all running into each other. I feel like I'm a mouse on a wheel, you know, just the next thing. So, and what I wanted to make a comment about the last piece, getting that information and focusing on the ideas that were presented does not mean that that can't be looked at for a future opportunity grant as well, whether it's with CDBG or even other funding for the city. So that's the intent of getting that kind of feedback for CDBG or any funds. So now we're sort of shifting the hat. Usually you get the comments and then you go back and figure out with the rules under a NOFA, which is a notice of funding availability, what it is that you would like to see or apply for and see funded. So boy, did we go through a lot of different ideas this past time. And the NOFA came out quite differently than it traditionally has in the past. They didn't allow for capital improvement projects because they received many last year in an over-the-counter process where it wasn't competitive. And so that was sort of taken off the table, even though it's an eligible CDBG funding opportunity, they didn't have that as available. And this is actually the first time that they are allowing multiple applications in a CDBG NOFA. Usually you wrote one application for one thing at the maximum amount and that was it. So this time jurisdictions can apply up to for up to 3 different activities in different pots. Since we already have funding for the senior center and that's under that capital umbrella anyways, there would not, you can't apply again in another year under that same umbrella unless you've spent down 50% of the funds from that grant, which of course we haven't. So the options for this particular NOFA is under kind of 3 different things. It's under community development, and community development is split between housing assistance to single family units. And it can either be homebuyer assistance, which is like first time homebuyer that you were mentioning, or housing rehabilitation. And both of those have a $500,000 cap to ask for. Under the other non-housing community development activities, there is public services and planning and technical assistance. The public services is up to 500,000 and the planning and technical assistance is up to 250,000. And then there's economic development activities, which we explored pretty deeply to see what could fit, what wouldn't, because that's obviously a high priority in the city of Winters. The city of Winters can apply up to 1.5 million under those categories that we were talking about, but they are different applications. So each activity is considered a totally separate application. So what we're coming to you tonight for is to ask for 350 or to write an application grant for 350,000 under the public services, non-housing, community development activities for a senior center position, director, supervisor, whatever Kathleen determines is going to be the title, and some program development, because we know soon enough we'll be building a senior center and need to have all of that support around it. The reason why we didn't ask for the max is because that's a lot of money for a senior center director, 500,000, and programming. And I know the question will come up. No, it can't cover the furniture and the tables and the other things that that the committee is looking at. So we went for 300,000, which will cover over 3 years, we hope, of services and program development for that.
Right, and if I could just elaborate a little bit on that topic. So we had looked initially at including in next year's budget the proposal for a recreation coordinator. A portion of that time would be to support the senior programming, and then the other half of that would support other non-senior recreation oriented programming, including the pool and sports and things like that. So we were not able to put that into the budget. We can't afford that this coming fiscal year, but the CDBG grant gives us an opportunity to apply for a position that can be funded through community development block grants, because senior programming and senior supportive services by default are eligible under the community development block grant program. We do not need a full-time person in the senior area. So our thought is that it could partially fund a full-time position, or maybe it's even just a part-time position that we end up recruiting for. It may take 6 to 9 months before we get the contract for this, so we wouldn't be able to do anything anyway until the funding was approved. And that way we would have a position that could help us really begin to outline our senior programming, help support the senior commission, the FF&E group, help coordinate the outfitting of the senior center, and help get us set up. And that $300,000 or $350,000 would be essentially a half-time person for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And I know we need to go to public comment, but some inquiries came up today from some of the council members in regards to, and I know Council Member Biazi just mentioned earlier about, well, if the maximum is 500,000, why aren't we asking for something, you know, with the difference between the 350 and the 500,000 at 150? And what I shared with Kathleen is that we can't do another public service activity to bring it up to the 500,000. But what we can do is, I understand there's interest in the homebuyer assistance or first-time homebuyer. We can write a second application for homebuyer assistance at the max of 500,000. And we can bring all of that back to you if you wish. That's not what you're going to be voting on tonight, because we've done a public hearing notice, and this will be a public hearing solely for the public services senior center position. But we do have an opportunity with enough time, since the state did get feedback that we're all going crazy with too many applications and they're all running together. They decided to delay the grant submittal by 45 days. And I don't have the official notice of that. I heard that on a training call. So I don't know if it's 45 days from the day they announced it on, you know, our call, or 45 days from a letter that they're writing that we haven't seen yet. So yet to know the actual final date. But that does open up the window for us to put in a second application, and we'll go through the public noticing process, public hearing, and we can bring all of that back to you. But tonight you're just focused on discussing and applying or approving the senior center director or supervisor's position.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing at 9:26. And do we have any public comment on this item? I see Tina Loudon has her hand up. Go ahead, Tina.
This is exciting. This is really exciting, and I'm still awake. It's almost 9:30. And can I apply since it's $350,000 for part-time? Kathleen, I want an application, please. Thank you for doing this. As you know, my husband and I are big advocates of the seniors, and this is really, really exciting news. And thank you so much. And I hope we could kind of segue into the seniors to do the pool. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Tina. Ashley, do we have any other commenters, people with hands up, or any written comment?
There are no written comments and I do not see any hands up.
Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 9:27. Is there any comment from council members or a motion on this item? Mayor Pro Tem.
I just would comment that I think applying for that 350 for the senior services program would be a great use of the funds. And as we all know, I'm sure just putting in an application doesn't guarantee we're going to get the money. I'm assuming it's going to be pretty competitive. So, but I think that would be well worth trying. And I would like to see us look into, if we can, if the deadline's extended, maybe do a couple more applications for some other items.
Agreed. Any other comments or anybody who would like to make a motion? Well, Tina, we closed the public hearing, but go ahead, quick.
Did you know that some of us, Valerie Wentworth and some other people, have done an application for a grant with AARP for $250,000 for the art park known as a piano park, known as a paseo park? Just a reference of information.
Thank you. All right. Councilmember Lauren.
I would like to move the item as stated and direct staff to bring back the possible money for housing.
Okay. Councilmember New. Second. Okay, I think he's seconding. Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New. Ashley, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren.
Aye.
Councilmember New.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi.
Aye.
And Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. And Colleen, I did hear, thank you for all the information. And I did hear you when you said something about another 1.5 available for other things. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more grant applications.
1.5 is the total. So if we do
Okay.
100 plus the 350, that's 850, right? It's getting late.
Okay, so we still got a little ways to go to get to 1.5.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on. Item number 3 in the public hearing, resolution 2021-20, authorizing adjustments for capital improvement facilities fees for general government. Kathleen, is this you?
Shelley's going to be presenting the next 2 items.
Okay, Shelley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a request for an adjustment to our capital improvement facility fees. We call them impact fees or AB 1600 fees. We pretty much use those terms in our mix. In 2018, we held a public hearing and we approved a resolution imposing facility fees for general government, fire, parks, recreation, public safety, wastewater, water, and transportation projects. And Section 6 of, and we did that based on a new cost, a new AB 1600 financing and nexus. Section 6 of that resolution provides that each fee imposed by the resolution should be automatically adjusted each July 1st. Due to all the staffing changes and COVID and fires, we did not adjust those fees last year. So therefore, we're recommending that the City Council hold a public hearing regarding the authorized adjustment for the development impact fees. We are recommending that we increase the fees by 3.93%. That's based on the Engineering News Record construction cost index. And if you would like, I can share my screen and show you, let me get to it. I can show you what we're recommending for the new fee and what the old fee was so that you have reference for that. Okay, so the top table is the fees that are in effect right now. The bottom table are the fees that we're recommending beginning July 1st, 2021. So there is increases relatively small when you consider it. It's 3.93% overall. So staff recommends you open a public hearing and then listen to comments from our community and then consider approving resolution 2021-20.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Is there any questions or concerns from council before I open the public hearing? Okay. Seeing none,
I
will.
have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember New.
Is this the point where we check the fee for the pool?
No, that would be the next item.
That's the next item. Okay, I couldn't find it on the list anywhere, so that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
This is just the impact fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to open a public hearing on this item at 9:33. Ashley, do you see anybody with their hand up or that wants to comment on the impact fees?
Let me go to a different view. Shelley, are you done with your screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good with it.
Okay, I am not seeing any hands up.
Okay, and there's been no written comment regarding impact fees?
No written comment.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 9:34. Council, any comments, concerns, recommendation? Motion?
Yeah, Mayor, I would just make a comment, like, as I know the mayor feels similar to what I feel on this. None of us like to see the fees go up on all these impact fees. It costs more for all the buildings that we're trying to encourage to happen, but this was something that we approved in 2018 to have this annual increase. And because of the circumstances last year, we postponed it. So I think it seems like, something that we should move forward with. As much as I hate to increase fees, I do think it's something that we're going to need to implement. So
if I could comment, I understand that this is increasing the cost of the building, but these fees are being set to pay for projects that are also seeing increased costs. So if we don't take action to increase our fees, then it's going to take us longer to be able to collect the funds to build those projects, because they're going up by the same amount as everybody else is seeing lumber and concrete and steel and everything else that the mayor and I just talked about the other day.
Correct. Anybody else with a comment? I'll just add, I totally agree with Bill. I hate to see any of these impact fees increased. But I will say, I know from the fact that I work in many jurisdictions and pay these fees that there's a lot of other jurisdictions where the fees are a lot higher. There's some around here that are more than double what ours are. So I know we're not the lowest, but we're certainly not the highest. And, it's it's really hard to see these things go up, especially when I know how much material costs and stuff are increasing right now. It's making it really hard to have anything, quote, affordable. But it's like our finance manager was saying, you know, it's everything right along with it goes up, and it just makes it harder and harder for us to accomplish any of our goals. So it seems like it's a pretty minimal amount, but every little bit does hurt. But I think we have to do what we have to do in this situation. Is there any other comment on this item, or does anybody wish to make a motion?
I have a comment and I'd like to move the motion. I think this is exactly what City Council does. It's our fiduciary duty to make these decisions, and we need to make this decision tonight. So I'd like to move the item as stated in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. I think Councilmember New is again making a second on the motion. You're on mute again.
I am seconding it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New, and we will do a roll call vote. Ashley.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren.
Aye.
Councilmember New.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi.
Aye.
Mayor Cowan.
A reluctant aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 4, resolution 2021-21, adopting fees and charges for certain services provided. Who's taking this on? Shelley.
This is Shelley again. So good evening. Before tonight, we're looking at the fees and charges for certain services that are provided by the City of Winters. We contracted with Matrix Consulting Group and adopted new fees in 2017. The fee schedule includes building, planning, public works and engineering, police, fire, and recreation fees. Each one is listed on a separate schedule. So in the resolution that was adopted 2017-35, it also included a section that said that the fees would be adjusted each July 1st, beginning July 1st, 2018, by a percentage equal to the rise in the engineering news record for the prior year. This resolution clarifies that the change for the preceding year will be measured December to December, because there's a timing issue if we're trying to do July by July and have it effective in July. So Schedule C for Public Works is being increased by 3.93%, which is the exact same amount we just increased the impact fees by, and that's based on the December 2018 to December 2020 engineering news record. The other fees for building and planning, police, fire, and recreation fees are being increased by 3.7%, which is the change in the consumer price index for all urban consumers from December 2018 to December 2020. Again, due to staffing issues and COVID, we did not increase the fees prior to this. Excuse me. So again, the building permit fees are going up by 3.7%. Except fees based on value on building valuation. Schedule B planning fees are being increased by 3.7%, engineering and public works by, most of them are based on a deposit basis in which we apply a 13% administrative fee. And for public works fees, we're going up by 3.93%. Police, fire, and recreation fees were all increased by 3.7%. And so this is doing what we said we were going to do in the prior resolution. The schedules are very long. What I would like to share based on some of the other conversations that we've had this evening is the recreation fee schedule. And I'm trying to get to that so I can share that. So that I can share my screen. There it is. So let me share my screen. Okay, so last year when we opened lap swim during COVID, the fee was increased from $7.50 and the monthly pass was discontinued. I've been listening to all the comments this evening. I did increase the monthly pass from $50 to $52, which is 3.7% increase. I did not change the daily pass for lap swim, and I suspect we'll want to have some conversation about that. So what staff recommends is that you accept the report and that you hold a public hearing and that you then provide or adopt resolution 2021-21, adopting the new fees effective July 1st, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Shelley. Is there any council comment before we open up the public hearing? I can only see one of you right now. So there we go. That's better. Okay, Pierre, Councilmember New.
All right. Well, I would like to propose a change in the adult lap swimming, which is now listed at $7.50. Actually, it's daily pass at $7.50 to make that $5. And that if we have a daily fee of $5 and a monthly fee of $50, or a 10-day pass of $18, something like that.
Sure.
And just put it out there and see what the public has to say about that.
Okay. Any other council comments before we open the public hearing? Okay, we're gonna open the public hearing at 9:43, and I see Sally Brown's hand up. Sally?
I would echo what Pierre says. If it's not possible to do the $52 monthly pass this year, I would highly recommend that you are consistent with Woodland and Vacaville and offer a discounted 10 swim pass for $4. So that at least knocks $1 off of the daily swim. And I agree that the daily swim should be $5. $7.50 was a tremendous increase from $5. So I would bring it back down to $5 with a discounted for daily swim at least.
Okay, thank you, Sally. Tina Loudon, I see your hand up.
I agree with Sally. I think we should do decrease it to $5. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you. And maybe a swim pass, 10 for $40. I think that's a little bit more easy to swallow.
Okay, thank you. Kate Laddish.
Thank you, Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And I will just echo council and public comments in support of going back to a monthly pass, ideally of $50, and having the daily fee for adult lap swim being $5. I'm also supportive of the idea of there being a 10 swim pass that is not just hooked into a particular month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, do we have anybody else wanting to comment?
I do not see any other hands, and we have no written comments submitted.
Okay. All right, is there any other comment from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
If there's no further public comment, you
Oh,
may
yep.
Thank you.
I got you. Close the public hearing at 9:46. Okay. One thing I wanted to ask about, Shelley, is I'm looking through the list and I'm not seeing it. Are the regular business licenses in this table somewhere?
No, business licenses are a separate code in the Muni
Okay.
code, and they have to be handled separately.
Okay.
They're actually an ordinance. And I think that is something we need to explore, but I think it's going to take a little more time and depth to
Yeah.
do than this fee schedule.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The only comment I have is, once again, I hate seeing any of these fees go up, and I look through this list and some of these things, it makes it, especially some of the planning and building fees. Sometimes, we have an issue with people doing stuff without a permits, and the number one reason is the fees associated with it. So I'm always in favor of keeping the fees as reasonable as we can to avoid people doing that, because I think there's a huge plus to people getting a building permit, so that, for the simple fact of live fire safety issues, and knowing that things are done correctly and safely. And, and that's what they're supposed to do when they're inspecting it, is make sure that that's what's happening. So for some of the smaller items, in a minimum fee of I think $137.50, it just, but once again, we're not the highest around, but we're certainly not the lowest either. Some of these I think are high, but it's, as a whole, we're still better than most. So once again, reluctantly, I have to kind of go along with it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. If nobody else on the council has any comments, we would entertain a motion.
I'd like to know what the motion, if it has anything included for the $50 and the daily pass, daily $5 fee.
You can make that part of your motion.
I also reluctantly, for some reasons, will move the item as it is, with the addition or the change that there be a $5 daily swim fee or a $50 monthly pass for swimming.
Okay. Councilmember Lauren, you're on mute.
I just have a clarifying question for staff. Is that I very much support making these fees accessible to our community, but I also honor the fiduciary duty of watching out for the city of Winters. Are we able to do this? I mean, what's the?
Yes. So yes, we can do this. We can do this. The city council can make the decision to set the fees at any level that is lower than cost recovery. So basically, these fees were set back in 2018 based on looking at how much time it took to do the fees or to do the service, taking it times the hourly rate of the employee, and that's the amount of cost recovery. As long as we're setting fees below cost recovery, it is entirely within the city council's purview on what level of fees they set. So that being said, recreation never covers its costs. And if you go into our fiscal policies, we talk about what level of cost recovery we expect from various divisions and departments within the city. And although I don't know the number off at the top of my head, recreation has a very low level of cost recovery, and that is expected and planned for within our financial policies for the city, that recreation is an important amenity to the community, and that we know that we cannot set the fees at the level of cost recovery. So as long as you're setting fees that are less than the maximum allowed under cost recovery, you have your discretion on where you want to set them, with the understanding that obviously there's going to be more cost than there is revenue for those activities.
So with that explanation, I would second the item.
I just have a just
Go ahead.
question before we vote on it. So
Go
I
ahead.
or a comment. I would just like to say, you know, I think we're not talking about changing the fee by very much, $250 per person, you know, for daily pass. I think the fiscal impact on our on our overall budget, it's going to be pretty minimal. And I think, you know, we're going to get more people coming and using it with that lower fee, which may offset that. That's what I'm hoping. And I know, Shelley, this will make more work for you, shifting your numbers around in your budget, which you do so well. But I think it's worth it to provide that amenity to our citizens. So that's all.
She's been working on a new computer program. It's getting easier.
Yeah.
I will say that I have heard, I've listened to what the community members have said about not being able to swim at the rate that was set last summer due to all the COVID protocols. And I understand what they're saying. So I am hopeful that it will bring some of the people back to using our pool instead of going to Esparto and instead of going to Vacaville and wherever else they're going. And if that works out, then that's great, because then we should be fine and not have any issues financially. So
Shelley, can we add in a third rate on the pool with some kind of a 10 for the price of 8, or to where it brings it down even more rather than just the monthly card? You know how people suggested that other jurisdictions do that. Is that a doable thing as well?
yes, you can, because again, if you were to set like the 10 swim card for $40, which is what I heard a few people talk about, you're still setting the rate at lower than the maximum allowed by law. So what you've done is you've bridged the gap a little bit between the $5 a day swim fee and the $50 a month swim fee. Frankly, to be honest and transparent, if you're somebody that uses the pool every day, you would be foolish not to pay for the monthly swim pass, right? Because at that, you're paying about $1.75 a day. But if you're somebody that uses it a couple of times a week, then maybe the $10 one works better for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could certainly add that in, because again, we would have to implement it, so we would have to prepare some costs to get ready for that. But it's still less than the maximum allowed under the cost recovery method, so you can add that in if that is your desire.
Okay, I'd like to do that if it's okay with the motion and the second that we do so. Okay, I see some heads nodding. Pierre, you're on mute.
So
go ahead.
Can I ask?
I'm accept your addition to that.
Okay.
So just what you said, Shelley, the
10 cards for $40.
For $40, yes.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I just had a question. Maybe this is for Joanna. Since that part of it wasn't publicly noticed, can we do that in this, or do we need to have that card that we're talking about at another meeting?
You could amend it.
Okay. Thank you.
For that effect, and yes. And also, I would recommend that the motion be restated since it has slightly changed.
Okay. Councilmember New.
All right. I move the staff recommendation for the fee schedule with the change that there is a $50 monthly pass and a what was your part?
$40
$40 10-day pass.
$40 10-day pass and a $5 daily fee.
And I second
Okay.
the motion as restated.
Okay.
Was there a $5?
Yes.
Yes.
That was the third item. That was the third piece. Yes. Okay. Think we got this. Ashley, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, believe it or not, it's still not midnight and we're still not Davis. So we're gonna do, Councilmember Lauren, you got something to say before we move on?
Yes, first, I'm really excited about what we've done tonight. And yay, yippee. But after that said, I just have a few things. I would like to just take this time to direct staff to bring back the business license fees as an item for discussion or an agenda item in 2021. Sometime in 2021. And I would like to ask to also ask or direct staff to bring back the item of Natural Resources Commission, which was discussed in the October 2020 meeting, to come back in May in our council meeting. And then the third item, which is a business item, is I've noticed tonight, and I spent a lot of time on Zoom. I've noticed tonight that there's been ongoing discussions in the chat that don't follow our legal role as having council and public comment and then discussion and moving or declining a staff item. And I would just like to ask and also direct staff to look into managing the protocol of the Zoom meeting in a way that matches the governor's order for as long as we still have to have Zoom. And the cities around us, Yolo County Transportation District and the county are all examples of doing it in a different way that manages the chat and allows the proceedings to match the governor's order. And thank you for making time for those comments and requests.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, Kathleen, city manager's report, and we'll give you 5 minutes.
I have no report other than to say that we were already intending to bring in the Natural Resources Commission recommendation back to the city council. So I have no report. Thank you.
Okay, with that said, it just clicked to 10 o'clock and we're gonna close the meeting at 10 p.m. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.